Alright, settle in because we're about to step back in time. Grab a cuppa, get comfortable, or maybe don't get too comfortable actually. Wherever you are, whatever time you're tuning in, just hit that like button and subscribe because you won't want to miss where we're going next. The year, you see, is 1888, a time of gas lamps, fog-choked streets and shadows that seem to cling to every corner of London. But we're not on the streets now. No, you're about to find yourself somewhere far less open. Somewhere that echoes with a different kind of quiet. You hear it first. A sound that rips through the stale air, sharp and metallic. A violent, echoing clang that reverberates through the very bones of the building, making your teeth ache. It's the kind of sound that doesn't just happen, it shouts asterisk finality. An iron gate, thick and unforgiving, slamming shut behind you. The sound dies slowly, swallowed by the oppressive silence that rushes back in, heavier than before. Then the smell hits you. It's not just an odor, it's an invasion. A chemical assault that stings the back of your throat, burns your nostrils and tastes like bitter medicine on your tongue. Carbolic acid. It hangs in the air, thick and cloying, trying to mask something else, something deeply unsettling that it can't quite cover, the sickly sweet tang of fear, perhaps, or something far more human. You try to take a deeper breath to clear your head, but it only pulls more of the acrid fumes into your lungs, leaving a burning sensation. Your eyes water involuntarily. You blink, trying to clear your vision in the dim, sepia-toned light filtering through a high, grimy window. It's a hallway, long and desolate, with walls painted a faded institutional green that looks more like a sickly grey in this perpetual twilight. The floorboards creak faintly under your weight, cold and worn, each step a small betrayal of your presence. You feel a shiver, not entirely from the chill in the air, but from the sudden, profound understanding of where you are. Down the corridor, you glimpse a figure at the far end, indistinct in the gloom. A nurse, perhaps, her starched uniform a faint, pale shadow. She turns her head slowly, her gaze seeming to lock onto you even from this distance, though you can't make out her features. There's no welcome in that silent regard, only a detached observation that feels colder than any draft. You instinctively pull your threadbare shawl tighter around you, as if the thin fabric could offer protection from the sheer weight of this place. Every shadow seems to hold a secret, every echo a whispered sorrow. The very air is heavy with unspoken stories, with the ghosts of forgotten minds. You are here now, trapped within these walls, and a chilling thought begins to form. In a place designed to contain madness, how long before the madness begins to contain you? You feel it scratchy and unyielding against your bare skin, rough-spun wool, a coarse weave that feels more like sackcloth than any garment. It's a sudden jarring sensation, as if you've been stripped not just of your outer layers, but of the very comfort your skin once knew. Your own clothes, the familiar fabric that held 1,000 memories, are gone. You recall a brief struggle, a tug-of-war with unseen hands, your protests hushed and ignored. Now only the lingering chill of cold air on your exposed limbs remains, punctuated by this new, abrasive material. They dress you quickly, with an impersonal efficiency that chills you more than the draft. Your arms are guided through stiff sleeves, the heavy fabric falling shapelessly around you. It's a uniform, you realize, not a gown, a drab grey devoid of any adornment, any hint of personality. It fits, but only in the most functional sense, loose in some places, tight in others, a constant, irritating reminder of its foreignness. You try to smooth out a wrinkle, but the fabric resists, stiff and unyielding, as if carved from stone. As the last button is fastened, a heavy metallic clang resonates from somewhere down a distant corridor. Not the gate this time, but something else, a door perhaps, sealing another soul into this vast, echoing prison. You flinch, your heart thrumming against your ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. You look up, and there they are, two women in pristine white aprons, their faces unreadable, their movements precise. One adjusts the collar of your new attire, her fingers brushing your neck, a touch devoid of warmth, clinical and dispassionate. Her eyes, however, hold a strange, knowing glint, as if she sees not you but merely another acquisition, another nameless face to add to the ledger. They turn you then, guiding you towards a small wooden stool in the center of the stark room. The floor beneath your feet is cold, uncarpeted stone, sending a fresh shiver up your legs. You glance around, desperate for something familiar, anything to anchor you, but there is nothing. Just bare walls, a single grimy window high up, offering only a sliver of pale, indifferent sky, and the relentless, pervasive smell of disinfectant, a relentless assault on your senses. Then the woman who adjusted your collar approaches again, holding a small blank card. She holds it before your eyes for a moment, then with a brisk, almost ceremonial movement, pins it to the front of your new uniform. You look down. On the card in neat impersonal script is a number, just a number, no name, no title, no Miss or Mrs., just 4 digits, stark and unyielding. It's as if, in that moment, your very identity has been peeled away, discarded with your old clothes, leaving behind only an assigned sequence. You reach up, your fingers tracing the rough edge of the card, the cold metal of the pin. A strange, hollow ache blooms in your chest. You open your mouth, a protest forming on your tongue, a desperate attempt to reclaim your name, to assert your being, but no sound emerges. Your throat feels dry, constricted, as if the carbolic acid scent has finally permeated your very voice. The two women exchange a glance, a silent communication passing between them. Then one of them gently yet firmly places a hand on your arm, guiding you towards the door. There's no malice in their touch, no cruelty, only a cold, professional detachment that feels far more terrifying. You are merely an object, a patient, an occupant to be moved and managed. As you are led from the room, you turn your head, a fleeting glance back at the empty space, at the ghost of who you once were, now left behind. You wonder, with a sudden, profound terror, if you will ever remember her again, the woman who once had a name. This place, you realize, isn't just holding you captive. It's systematically erasing you, piece by piece, until only the uniform and the number remain. Right then, let's step further into this nightmare. You're no longer in that sterile changing room. Oh no, now the very air itself seems to vibrate with a constant, unsettling sound. It's not one noise, but a horrible, shifting tapestry of human anguish and confusion, a cacophony. First, you hear the low, guttural moans like an animal in pain, echoing from some unseen corner. Then a sharp, sudden shriek tears through the air, quickly followed by a strange, almost rhythmic thudding, someone somewhere repeatedly banging their head against a wall. There's a constant undercurrent of whispered gibberish, snippets of imagined conversations, half-formed pleas that never quite become words. And perhaps most unsettling, a sudden burst of high-pitched, hysterical laughter that dies as abruptly as it began, leaving a chill in its wake. It all blends, rises and falls, a monstrous symphony that seems to vibrate right in your chest, assaulting your ears, stealing any hope of peace. You wince, trying to press your hands against your temples, as if to physically push the noise away, but it's inside you now, a relentless torment. You're guided, pushed gently yet firmly towards a narrow bed. Your eyes scan the vast, open ward, rows upon rows of identical beds, each occupied by a figure in a uniform just like yours, some still, some twitching, some staring blankly at the high, barred windows. The air, despite the constant clamor, feels heavy and stagnant, still carrying the lingering stench of carbolic acid, now overlaid with something else. The faint, musky odor of unwashed bodies, of dampness, and something sickly sweet you can't quite place, but instinctively recoil from. Then you feel it. The mattress beneath you is a cruel mockery of comfort. It's a sack barely stuffed, filled with something rough and unyielding, straw, you realize, as a sharp, dry stalk pokes through the thin cover and pricks your skin. It's lumpy, full of valleys and ridges that refuse to conform to your body, offering no solace. You try to shift to find a more comfortable position, but each movement only rearranges the lumps, creating new points of discomfort. The rough wool of your uniform scratches against your neck, an added layer of irritation. There's no soft pillow, just a folded piece of linen, equally unyielding. You lie there, the straw rustling beneath you with every breath, the cacophony of the ward washing over you in waves. It's a relentless assault on every sense, a constant reminder of where you are and what you have become. You close your eyes, wishing for silence, for softness, for a moment of true escape. But the sounds penetrate, the discomfort persists, and you realize that in this place, even oblivion feels like a distant, impossible dream. This isn't just a bed. It's a stark monument to the unraveling of all familiar comforts, forcing you to confront the raw, unfiltered reality of human vulnerability. Okay, let's plunge deeper, shall we? Because as the feeble light of the day finally drains from the high windows, you're not just left in darkness, you're swallowed by it. It descends not like a gentle veil, but like a suffocating blanket, heavy and absolute. The last vestiges of the gloomy daylight simply vanish, leaving behind an inky blackness that presses in on your eyes, so thick you feel you could almost reach out and touch it. It's disorienting, immediately robbing you of any spatial awareness you might have clung to. You try to blink to pierce the gloom, but it's futile. every object, every person in the vast ward is erased, leaving only formless voids. The cacophony of the day doesn't disappear, it merely transforms. Without sight, your other senses sharpen, becoming hyper-aware, almost painfully so. The constant moans and whispers now feel closer, more intimate, as if they're coming from just inches away, right beside your ear. The rhythmic thudding becomes a frantic heartbeat in the walls, the sudden shrieks more piercing, tearing through the shroud of night. You hear shuffling, soft scrapes of bare feet on cold stone, the creak of straw from distant beds, all amplified, distorted, each sound a tiny, unsettling declaration of presence in the unseen. You clutch the rough blanket tighter, wishing it could muffle the world, but it offers no such grace. Then you feel it, not a touch, not a sound you can pinpoint, but a profound, undeniable awareness of being observed. It's a prickle on the back of your neck, a coldness on your exposed skin, a tightening in your chest, the weight of 1,000 eyes you think, though you can see none. In the oppressive black, you imagine shadowy figures, row upon row of them, lying just as you are, but all of them, every single one, turned towards you. You feel their blank stares, their bewildered gazes, their silent judgments, or perhaps just their shared, unblinking madness. It's a collective, unseen scrutiny that chills you to the bone, making your breath catch in your throat. You try to turn away, to burrow deeper into the lumpy straw mattress, but there's nowhere to hide in this shared dormitory of despair. The rough uniform chafes, the straw pokes, the lingering smell of carbolic acid seems to thicken in the unmoving air, now mixed with the stale tang of human confinement. You lie there, utterly vulnerable, a single point of raw sensation amidst the vast, consuming darkness and the imagined gaze of countless others. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the true nature of being seen. Is it worse to be invisible or to be seen without being truly recognized, reduced to just another patient, another number, under the silent, unwavering observation of an unseen, unfeeling world? The incessant din of the ward, the low moans and sudden shrieks has become a suffocating blanket, but then a new ripple of tension cuts through it. A sharp, distinct tapping sound echoes down the aisle between the beds, not the haphazard movements of the patients, but something measured, authoritative. It's the click of polished leather shoes on the cold stone floor, a sound that promises a disruption, an unwelcome intrusion into your desperate attempt at internal retreat. You feel a collective shift in the ward, a hush descending, as if every soul present holds its breath, sensing the arrival of something official. Then you see him, a figure in a crisp, dark suit, a starched white shirt, and a waistcoat that seems impossibly neat in this disheveled world. He moves with an air of absolute command, his presence a stark, imposing contrast to the drab, uniform greys and muted despair around you. He's flanked by two nurses, their aprons stark white against the gloom, their faces grimly attentive. As he draws nearer, a faint, clean scent of carbolic soap and something faintly metallic, perhaps the lingering smell of ink from a ledger, replaces the heavy, stale air for a fleeting moment. He stops before your bed and his gaze descends upon you. It's not merely a look, it's an examination. His eyes, a chilling, piercing blue, sweep over you, dissecting you, categorizing you, as if you are nothing more than a specimen under a microscope. There's no warmth, no flicker of empathy, only a clinical detachment that strips you bare, far more thoroughly than the rough uniform ever could. You feel an icy tendril of dread coil in your stomach, a profound sense of helplessness. You instinctively shrink back into the lumpy straw, wishing the brittle stalks could offer true concealment from that unyielding stare. He doesn't speak directly to you, not with words you can hear. Instead, he turns slightly to one of the nurses, murmuring, his voice a low, authoritative rumble that doesn't quite reach your ears, but you feel the weight of his implied questions. It's an unspoken interrogation. You feel his gaze return, sharp and probing, lingering on your face, your hands, every twitch of your body. Are you distressed? Do you understand? What troubles you? Why are you here? These questions echo not in the air, but inside your own head, intrusive and unwanted, each one a sharp spike pricking at your already frayed composure. You want to scream, to lash out, to tell him everything, to defend yourself, to reclaim the woman you were. But your throat is tight, your tongue feels thick, and you know with a sudden, crushing certainty that any words you utter would only serve to confirm his predetermined diagnosis. He gestures then, a curt, dismissive flick of his hand towards the nurse, before moving on to the next bed, his polished shoes clicking relentlessly, leaving you behind. The weight of his gaze lifts, replaced by the crushing burden of being seen and utterly misunderstood. You are not a person to him, you realize. You are a case, a set of symptoms, a problem to be catalogued and contained. And in that moment, under the lingering ghost of his cold scrutiny, you feel a profound despair, the terrifying understanding that perhaps your true self, your authentic thoughts and feelings, will never truly be seen or heard in this place. That cold, penetrating gaze of the physician has moved on, but his presence still lingers, a heavy, suffocating shadow, and then you hear it, the faint, insistent scratch of a pen. It's a delicate, almost fragile sound, yet in this echoing ward it feels shockingly precise, almost violent in its certainty. The doctor, standing at a small, portable desk just a few beds away, is hunched over a thick ledger, his hand moving with a brisk, practiced efficiency. Scratch, scratch, pause, scratch, scratch, pause. Each tiny stroke of the nib against the paper feels like a nail being hammered into a coffin, sealing your fate. You can't see the words he's writing, of course, but you know with a chilling certainty what they must be. You can practically feel the ink drying on the page, solidifying your story, reducing your life to a few carefully chosen, damning phrases. You imagine the crisp, neat script charting your descent, documenting your symptoms, rendering your very existence into a clinical diagnosis. The word forms in your mind, heavy and inescapable, hysteria asterisk. It's a label that hangs in the air, invisible yet palpable, a mark branded upon you not with fire but with ink and paper. You watch the nurse standing beside him, her head bowed in attentive silence. Her face is devoid of expression, yet you catch a fleeting glimpse of a sympathetic shadow in her eyes as she glances briefly towards you. It's a flicker, gone as quickly as it came, a tiny, almost imperceptible recognition of your human reality, swallowed immediately by the demands of her role, by the grim institutional efficiency. The scratch of the pen continues, methodical, relentless. Each stroke feels less like a record of illness and more like a sentence being passed. The sound stops abruptly, the doctor closing the ledger with a soft thud that resonates with finality. He looks up not at you but across the ward, his expression unchanged. He simply hands the closed book to the nurse, who takes it with a deferential nod. In that simple exchange, the cold, hard truth sinks in. Your future, your identity, your very sanity has just been codified, filed away, reduced to an entry in a medical journal. You lie on your lumpy straw mattress, the rough uniform chafing, the ward's cacophony a dull roar around you. But above it all, you hear the phantom echo of that pen, forever scratching, forever inscribing that incurable stain. It's a profound emptiness that settles within you. You realize the terrifying power of a single word, a single diagnosis to erase a life and redefine a soul, not just in the eyes of others, but perhaps irrevocably in your own. How does one ever wash away a stain that exists only on paper, yet feels so utterly real, so deeply embedded in one's very being? The ward's ceaseless drone, it's a living thing, isn't it? But amidst the cacophony you start to discern a grim, unspoken order, a silent hierarchy carved not by walls but by madness itself. You see it in their bodies, their eyes. Stillness versus frantic motion, near the grimy windows the melancholics, agonizingly slow, almost frozen. A woman, gaze fixed on the ceiling, fingers endlessly picking at a thread on her coarse uniform. Another hunched on a bench, a statue of profound grief. Their quiet isn't peace, it's a suffocating despair draining all light from the air. You feel the cold weight of their sorrow, a silent, chilling invitation. Across the ward, the maniacs, exploding with unpredictable energy. A man paces relentlessly, bare feet slapping the stone floor, arms flailing at unseen specters. A high-pitched giggle erupts from another, turning into a guttural moan, his head jerking violently. Their eyes are wide, darting, filled with frantic, untamed fire, a restless agitation vibrating in the very air. You are suspended between these two extremes. No physical barrier, yet the chasm is absolute. In your rough uniform, an invisible current pulls you. You wonder, with icy dread, which camp will eventually claim you. Does this silent hierarchy simply define you, or does it, in classifying, solidify the very madness it purports to treat? The clang of cutlery on tin plates shatters the melancholic stillness of the morning. It's a harsh, metallic symphony that signals the arrival of the day's first meal, dragging you from the shallow, uneasy sleep granted by the lumpy straw mattress. The pervasive stench of carbolic acid now mixes with the faint, sickly sweet aroma of weak gruel, a smell that promises little nourishment but much obligation. You push yourself upright, the rough wool of your uniform scratching against your skin, and survey the ward. There's a palpable shift in the air, a collective, almost animalistic anticipation. This, you realize, is not just about hunger. It's about control. You watch as the nurses, their movements brisk and unyielding, begin distributing the meager portions. They move like automatons, their faces set, their efficiency chilling. You notice the patient in the bed opposite, a frail woman whose eyes are perpetually downcast. She offers no protest, no sound beyond a faint sigh when a bowl is placed before her. Her hand trembles slightly as she reaches for the spoon, but she eats slowly, methodically, without raising her gaze. The nurse, you observe, pauses for a fraction of a second longer beside her, her voice a low, almost indistinguishable murmur as she moves on. It's not kindness, you understand, it's a fleeting moment of non-punishment, a silent acknowledgement of her quietude. Her reward, you perceive, is simply being left alone, uninterfered with, a fragile reprieve in this relentless environment. A small privilege, perhaps a slightly larger spoonful of the watery gruel, a less brusque gesture. Compliance, you learn, has its own grim currency here, but then the scene shifts. Further down the ward, a sharp, indignant cry rings out. A man who had been pacing erratically moments before now shoves his bowl away, sending a splash of gruel across the stone floor. His eyes, wild and bloodshot, dart around the room, full of a raw, untamed fury. He gesticulates wildly, incoherent words tearing from his throat, words that sound like a defiance hurled at the very walls themselves. Immediately, two burly orderlies who had been lingering near the entrance spring into action. Their footsteps are heavy, purposeful, cutting through the general din. Their faces are grim, their movements swift and practiced. One grasps the man's arm, pulling him upright, while the other quickly straps a leather cuff around his wrist. The man struggles, a desperate, frantic fight against their unyielding grip, his cries escalating into guttural shouts. He kicks, he twists, a fleeting, desperate attempt to reclaim his bodily autonomy. You hear the sharp, sickening thwack asterisk of leather on flesh, a sound that makes your own stomach churn. It's over quickly. The man is subdued, his struggles diminishing into whimpers as he's led away, not gently but dragged, his feet scraping loudly on the stone floor. His empty bed, stark and barren, stands as a chilling testament to the consequences of his defiance. The orderlies return, their expressions unchanged, and a nurse quickly cleans the spilled gruel, leaving no trace of the outburst. The ward falls into a strained silence, a temporary lull born of fear, a collective understanding of the harsh boundaries. You feel a cold knot tighten in your chest, a visceral understanding of the unspoken lesson. There are rules here, invisible yet ironclad, enforced with a brutal efficiency that prioritizes order above all else. Your body, your will, your very voice, they are not your own. You are a subject to be managed, a problem to be contained. And the price of resisting, you realize with a horrifying clarity, is far greater than any perceived reward of compliance. It's the loss of your dignity, the silencing of your spirit, the swift and painful reassertion of absolute control. You watch the remaining patients, now eating in almost perfect silence, their eyes fixed on their bowls. The air itself seems to thicken, isn't it? The carbolic acid that usually stings your nostrils is suddenly overshadowed by something far more acrid, far more caustic. It's the raw, biting scent of lye mingling with stale water and the damp stone. It catches in your throat, making you cough, a dry, rasping sound that feels lost in the vastness of the ward. And then you feel it, the sting. A sharp, almost electrical prickle on the skin of your hands, which are already chapped and cold from the perpetually damp environment. You glance down, a thin film of milky, soapy water coats them, a subtle burning sensation beginning to spread. A rough bristled brush is thrust into your hand. It's heavy, damp, and the bristles feel like coarse wire against your palm. The nurses, as ever, are watching, their eyes scanning for any hesitation, any sign of resistance. You drop to your knees, the worn fabric of your uniform offering little protection against the chill of the stone floor. A bucket of murky water, smelling faintly of disinfectant and earth, sits beside you. This is your task now. You dip the brush into the cold water, feeling the icy shock spread through your fingers, already numb from the perpetual chill. Then you begin. Scrub, scrub, drag the bucket. Scrub, scrub, move on. It's a rhythmic, relentless motion. Your back aches, a dull, persistent throb. Your knees protest, grinding against the unforgiving stone. Your hands, perpetually submerged in the harsh lye solution, begin to burn, a deeper, more insistent sting than before, a constant reminder of the chemical assault. You focus on the movement, the scrape of the bristles against the grime, the faint hiss of the water spreading. It becomes a trance, a desperate attempt to lose yourself in the sheer monotony, to drown out the lingering cacophony of the ward. The low moans, the sudden shouts, the unsettling giggles, they fade into a distant hum, replaced by the grating sound of your own labor. You feel your muscles protest, a dull ache spreading through your shoulders and arms, but you push through it. Each scrub, each drag of the bucket, is a small, hollow victory against the all-encompassing despair. You see the others around you in their identical drab uniforms, also on their knees, performing the same mind-numbing ritual. Their faces are blank, their eyes vacant, lost in the rhythm, perhaps finding a grim, temporary escape in the sheer physical exhaustion. You become just another cog in this silent, ceaseless machine, your efforts designed not just to clean the floors, but to cleanse your mind, to scour away any lingering thoughts of resistance, any flicker of individual will. And in that relentless, stinging scrub, you wonder if the lie isn't just cleaning the stone, but slowly, inexorably stripping away something vital from within you, leaving behind only an obedient, hollow shell. You step, or rather, are nudged, into a different kind of oppressive atmosphere. Gone is the raw, biting sting of lie from the scrubbing, replaced by a dense, all-encompassing humidity that immediately clings to your skin, seeping into the rough fabric of your uniform. The air itself is thick, heavy with the scent of hot, wet linen, of boiling water, and a faint, almost metallic tang that seems to steam from the very walls. You can barely see a few feet in front of you. The room is perpetually shrouded in a swirling, ghostly mist, a white veil that distorts shapes and muffles sounds. Each breath you take feels like inhaling a warm, damp cloth, filling your lungs with moisture until they feel heavy, waterlogged. Your hair, already damp with sweat, starts to cling to your temples. The cacophony of the main ward, that constant, unsettling symphony of human distress, is replaced here by a different kind of noise. A rhythmic industrial rumble, the insistent thudding of heavy rollers, the hiss and gurgle of unseen pipes, the slap of wet fabric, and the constant, dull roar of a furnace somewhere in the distance. It's a relentless, mechanical pulse that seems to dictate the very rhythm of your existence in this room. You feel the heat radiating from the enormous iron machines, a dry, intense warmth that prickles your skin even through the suffocating humidity. It's an exhausting heat, not comforting but draining, designed to sap your strength and focus your mind entirely on the task at hand. You're handed a pile of damp, heavy sheets. They're coarse, smelling faintly of the same harsh soap and surprisingly weighty. The nurses here are different too. Their starched uniforms are often damp at the hems, their faces flushed from the heat, but their expressions remain impassive, their gaze sharp, missing nothing. They direct you with curt gestures, pointing towards one of the giant mangle machines, its polished rollers gleaming menacingly in the diffused light. Your task is simple, brutal in its repetition. You grasp the thick, sodden edge of a sheet, feeling the cold dampness against your already burning hands. You feed it into the hungry maw of the rollers, pushing, guiding, feeling the resistance as the heavy machinery pulls the fabric through. The steam hisses, clouds of it erupting as the linen is pressed, flattened, dried. Then you retrieve the now hot, almost dry sheet from the other side, carefully fold it and reach for the next. And the next, and the next. It's an endless loop. Your muscles ache, a deep, persistent burn in your arms and shoulders. The heat, the steam, the sheer physical exertion all combine to create a profound sense of weariness that begins to blur the edges of your thoughts. The ward's distant cries, the cold gaze of the physician, the scratch of the pen, all those sharp edges of reality begin to soften, to dissolve in the haze of steam and exhaustion. Your mind, usually racing, now slows, becoming focused solely on the repetitive motion, the feel of the wet fabric, the insistent hum of the machine. You glance at the other patients around you, their faces beaded with sweat, their eyes glazed, moving with the same methodical, almost vacant efficiency. They are all caught in this same therapeutic exhaustion. There's no conversation, no direct interaction, just a shared, silent understanding of the task. It's a strange sort of peace, you realize, a deceptive calm born not of solace, but of sheer mind-numbing fatigue. The constant work, the overwhelming heat, the repetitive actions, they all conspire to empty your mind, to purge it of thought, of feeling, of anything that might resemble your former self. And in that relentless cleansing steam, you wonder if this isn't the true purpose of this place, not to cure your madness, but to simply wear you down until there's nothing left to resist, nothing left to feel, nothing left but the raw, unthinking obedience of a body performing its assigned labor. Right, you've endured the scalding steam of the laundry, the stinging lie on your hands, but now you're about to experience a different kind of extreme, a cold that doesn't just chill you, it seizes your very breath. You're led not gently but firmly into a new room. The air here is sharp, sterile, carrying a metallic tang mixed with the ubiquitous carbolic acid. It feels damp, almost subterranean. You shiver instinctively, though you're not yet fully exposed to the true chill. Ahead of you, gleaming dully in the sparse light, is a large, deep tub, a porcelain behemoth brimming with water. And you just no asterisk that it's not warm. Steam usually rises from warm water, doesn't it? But here, a faint mist hovers over the surface, cold and ethereal, like breath on a winter morning. It promises an icy embrace. The nurses are there, of course, their faces impassive. You're divested of your rough uniform with a brisk, efficient speed that leaves no room for protest or modesty. The cold air immediately prickles your bare skin, raising goosebumps along your arms and legs. Then, with a firm push from behind, you're steered towards the tub's edge. You feel the cold ceramic against your bare feet, a jarring shock that makes you gasp. And then you're in. The plunge is immediate, brutal. It's not just cold, it's an excruciating, bone-chilling shock that rips through your entire body. The water isn't merely cool, it's frigid, as if filled with slivers of ice. You feel every muscle in your body instantly clench, seize, a painful spasm that steals your breath. Your lungs convulse, unable to draw in air, your chest tightening like a vice. A violent shiver racks you, an uncontrollable tremor that starts in your core and vibrates out to every limb, making your teeth chatter so hard you worry they might crack. The cold bites relentless, 1,000 tiny needles piercing your skin, then settling into a deep, aching burn. You feel the icy water rise around you, creeping up your legs, over your stomach, engulfing your chest. Your heart pounds, a frantic drum against your ribs, trying to pump warmth through your rapidly chilling veins. Your skin turns an alarming shade of blue, the color of a winter sky. You try to move, to thrash, to escape this cruel embrace, but the cold seems to paralyze you, locking your limbs in a rigid embrace. Your jaw clenches so tightly it hurts, a desperate attempt to contain the shuddering that consumes you. The world narrows to this single, overwhelming sensation, the brutal, inescapable cold. The nurses stand by, observing, their faces unreadable, their silence amplifying the internal scream that you cannot release. They hold you there just long enough for the initial shock to morph into a dull ache, a profound numbness that threatens to seep into your very bones. You realize with a chilling clarity that this isn't about cleansing or hygiene. This is about shock, about control, about forcing your body into submission through sheer, unbearable discomfort. And in that icy plunge, you question what part of you can truly withstand such a deliberate, systematic assault on the senses, and how much of your inner fire can truly survive this profound, calculated chill. You're still shivering, aren't you? The bone-deep chill from that ice-cold plunge clinging to your skin, making your muscles ache and your teeth subtly chatter. Your breath feels shallow, fragile. But before you can even properly draw another full breath, before the cold has fully receded from your very marrow, there's a new sound. A sharp, metallic asterisk clunk asterisk echoes through the damp, sterile room, a lever being thrown, a mechanism engaging. And then a sudden, terrifying roar of water erupts. It's not a gentle cascade, not a soothing flow. This is a powerful, concentrated gush, a watery fist unleashed with a brutal, hissing force. You see it for a split second before it hits. A thick, relentless column of water, a watery serpent coiling and uncoiling from a nozzle above, aimed directly at you. You instinctively flinch, try to pull away, but the nurses on either side of the tub hold you firm, their grip unyielding, their faces still unreadable. They're braced, almost expectant. You try to scream, but the sound catches in your throat, drowned by the sheer volume of the rushing torrent. Then the impact. It hits you like a physical blow, a violent, drowning force that knocks the air clean out of your lungs. The water, still bitterly cold, smacks against your bare chest, your shoulders, your stomach, with such intensity that it feels less like a liquid and more like 1,000 tiny hammers pummeling your flesh. It's a relentless, blinding spray that washes over your face, forcing your eyes shut, filling your ears with its deafening roar. You gasp, desperate for air, but each inhale pulls in more cold, atomized water, stinging your nostrils, burning the back of your throat. You choke, you splutter, your entire body convulsing in a frantic, involuntary dance against the assault. The pressure is immense, a crushing weight that pins you in place, making it impossible to move, to struggle effectively. You feel yourself slipping, losing balance in the icy water of the tub, but the nurse's grip remains steadfast, anchoring you to this torment. The force of the douche seems to buffet your very insides, vibrating through your bones, making your head ache with a dull, throbbing pain. You can't think, you can barely register anything beyond the overwhelming sensation of being violently assaulted by water. It's a sensory overload, a deliberate erasure of all other thought, all other feeling, leaving only the raw, visceral experience of being drowned and beaten simultaneously. Minutes stretch into an eternity, or perhaps it's only seconds. Time loses all meaning in this relentless barrage. Your body is pushed to its absolute limit, shivering uncontrollably, muscles spasming, breath coming in ragged, desperate gulps. You feel a profound exhaustion settling in, not just physical but mental, a weariness that promises to shatter any remaining defiance. The water, the cold, the sheer force, it's designed to break you, isn't it? To scour away any lingering spark of resistance, any vestige of your former self, until you are nothing but a pliant, compliant form. Then, as abruptly as it began, the roar subsides. The asterisk clunk of the lever returns, and the violent gush of water chokes to a stop, leaving an echoing silence in its wake. You sag in the nurse's grip, gasping, shaking, utterly depleted. Your skin is raw, red where the water struck hardest, a ghostly pale elsewhere, still numb with cold. You stumble from the tub, shivering uncontrollably, the remnants of water streaming from your hair, your body. You are alive, yes, but you feel hollowed out, drained of warmth, of energy, of any will to resist. In this systematic assault on the body, you realize the terrifying effectiveness of an inhumane cure. What does it mean to be treated when the treatment itself feels like a calculated, brutal punishment, and how much of your spirit can truly endure being so relentlessly washed away? You're not just tired anymore, are you? The exhaustion from the hydrotherapy, the lingering chill, it's all been replaced by a different kind of tension in the air. A sudden, quiet urgency. The nurses, their faces still, approach your bed with a purpose that makes your stomach clench. You see what they carry, strips of thick, dark leather heavy with metal buckles. They smell faintly of old animal hide, of something used, something that promises confinement. A sour, almost metallic tang underlies it. They guide you to sit, or rather press you down onto the hard, wooden chair positioned beside your bed. Your arms are taken, gently but firmly, then positioned. You feel the initial contact of the leather on your wrists. It's cold, surprisingly unyielding, and strangely smooth on one side, rough on the other. It doesn't feel like a comforting embrace, but a cold, hard promise of immobility. You try to pull your hands away, a faint, instinctive twitch, but their grip is absolute, unyielding. Then comes the tightening. The leather is drawn snugly around your wrists, pressing against the sensitive veins, the delicate bones. You hear the sharp asterisk click asterisk of the buckle, then another, as the straps are pulled taut. It's not painful yet, but it's a profound, immediate loss of freedom, a physical severing of your connection to your own hands. You feel the circulation begin to lessen, a subtle tingling starting to spread through your fingertips. The edges of the leather begin to bite, chafing against your skin with every tiny, involuntary tremor of your body. But it doesn't stop there. Your ankles are next, the same impersonal efficiency. You feel the rough leather wrap around your lower legs just above your feet, another sharp click, another buckle drawn tight. Now your legs too are anchored, bound. The bite of the leather is more insistent here, pressing against your tendons, making the simple act of shifting your weight impossible. You can't stand, you can't walk, you can't even fidget. You are fixed, rooted to this spot, an unmoving statue in a world that continues to churn around you. You try to move your fingers to flex your toes, but the restraints hold fast. The rough leather chafes, a constant, irritating presence that grows from a mere annoyance into a persistent, low-level ache. It feels like a living thing biting into your skin, a physical manifestation of the control that has been so systematically imposed upon you. The smell of the leather of old, dried skin now fills your immediate space, a constant reminder of your new reality. You look down at your bound limbs, the dark straps a stark contrast against your pale skin, and a profound, chilling stillness settles over you. You are held, utterly unable to act on your own will. The ward's distant sounds, the shuffling, the moans, they all feel further away now, detached, as if you're observing them from behind a thick pane of glass. This isn't just about restricting movement, it's about restricting agency, about cutting off the body's ability to express itself, to resist. And in that chafing bite of leather, you feel a terrifying question emerge. If you cannot move, if you cannot react, if you cannot reach out, how long before you forget how to truly be? Right, the leather restraints were one thing, but now you're about to feel true bodily confinement, a suffocating embrace that steals your very breath. It begins with the scent, coarse canvas, dry and dusty, mingled with stale air, filling your nostrils as it's brought close. Then the press of it against your skin, rough, unyielding, not soft like fabric but stiff, almost abrasive. Your arms are forced with an unsettling finality across your chest. Hands disappear into deep, blind pockets. Then the tightening, straps are cinched from behind, across your back, over your shoulders, around your torso. It's a relentless compression, a physical vice that squeezes the air from your lungs. Each breath is shallow, a struggle against the unyielding canvas that presses into your ribs, into your stomach. You're a rigid column now, utterly unable to move. No shifting, no flexing of fingers. The blood pulses frantically in your temples against the unyielding material. You're moved not to the ward but down a dim, colder corridor. The air here smells strongly of mildew and damp stone. A heavy wooden door creaks open, then slams shut behind you with a dull, absolute thud. You are alone. The silence that descends is profound, startling. Gone is the ward's cacophony. Here there's only the frantic beat of your own heart against constricted ribs, the shallow rasp of your breath. The cell is tiny, claustrophobic, bare stone walls, a grimy window high above offering only a sliver of grey light. The air is heavy still, chilling you to the bone despite the canvas encompassing you. You try to move, to turn your head, but your body is a prisoner, trapped within yourself in this small, cold box, utterly alone. This profound silence, broken only by your own frantic internal sounds, is almost worse than the noise. It offers no distraction, no escape from the relentless reality of your confinement, both physical and spatial. What is left of a person, you wonder, when every impulse to move, to respond, to simply *be, is crushed into absolute stillness? Right, you've been through the ice and the deluge, your body aching, your spirit worn thin. But now, as you're led down yet another corridor, a different kind of sensation begins to prickle at your awareness. It starts as a low, almost subliminal hum, a deep, resonant thrumming that vibrates through the cold stone floor, up through the soles of your bare feet and into your bones. It's an insistent mechanical heartbeat that grows steadily louder with every step you take. Then you hear it more distinctly, a distinct rhythmic whine like a tightly wound spring building in intensity. And accompanying it a sharp, almost unsettling crackle like static electricity or distant thunder trapped in a bottle. It's a sound unlike anything you've encountered in this place, a sound that speaks of raw, untamed power. You instinctively tense, your muscles coiling, your breath catching in your throat. This isn't the chaotic clamor of the ward, nor the industrial roar of the laundry. This is something altogether more artificial, more controlled, and infinitely more menacing. And then the smell hits you. It's utterly alien, sharp and biting, cutting through the ubiquitous carbolic acid and the stale dampness. An acrid metallic tang that instantly pricks the back of your throat, making your eyes water. It's the smell of ozone, you realize, that peculiar, clean yet toxic scent of electricity in the air, a precursor to lightning or perhaps something far more confined. It tastes like cold metal on your tongue, a bitter chemical flavor that makes your stomach churn with a sudden, profound dread. You try to take a shallower breath to avoid inhaling more of the stinging air, but it's everywhere, saturating the very atmosphere. You're pushed gently into a small, windowless room. The light here is dim, a single gas lamp flickering hesitantly from the ceiling, casting long, dancing shadows that seem to distort the already unsettling scene. In the center of the room, there it is. A monstrous contraption of polished wood, gleaming brass and thick insulated wires. It whines and crackles, a low, ominous growl emanating from its core. This is the source of the sound, the origin of the smell. This is the machine. You feel a sickening lurch in your gut. The nurses are already there, their faces drawn, their movements precise, almost ritualistic. The physician, his cold, piercing blue eyes fixed upon you, stands beside the device, a leather-bound journal clutched in his hand. He gestures a curt nod of his head and the nurses move towards you, their hands reaching, their grip firm, unyielding. You feel a profound terror bloom in your chest, a desperate, animalistic urge to recoil, to escape. Your heart thumps against your ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage, warning you, screaming at you, that whatever comes next, it's going to be far worse than anything you've endured before. You're guided towards a wooden chair, heavy leather straps already hanging from its arms and legs. You feel a strange numbness, a disembodied sense of observation, as if this isn't truly happening to you. The crackle of the generator intensifies, a steady, low roar that drowns out all other thought. The acrid smell of ozone fills your lungs, suffocating you, poisoning your very breath. You are about to face a force designed to not just control your body, but to seize your very mind. And in that chilling, electrical hum, you wonder, with a rising panic, what parts of you will survive this deliberate assault on the inner workings of your own sanity. You're strapped in, aren't you? The rough leather biting into your wrists and ankles, securing you to the unforgiving chair. The low, insistent whine of the generator fills the small, windowless room, a mechanical beast stirring to life. That acrid smell of ozone, metallic and sharp, is now thick in your lungs, clinging to the roof of your mouth, tasting like impending doom. Your heart thumps, a desperate drum against your ribs, a frantic warning of the unknown horror about to unfold. Then you feel them, cold metallic discs pressed firmly against your temples. A faint, slick gel makes them adhere, sending a fresh shiver down your spine. They're heavy, alien, a conduit to something terrifying. You instinctively try to flinch, to pull your head back, but your neck is held fast, unyielding. The nurse's grip on your shoulders is a physical anchor, preventing any escape. You squeeze your eyes shut, bracing for a pain you can't possibly comprehend. A sudden, sharp click cuts through the air, distinct even over the generator's hum. It's the sound of a switch being thrown. And then it hits you. It's not just pain, it's an explosion. A blinding, searing flash of white light behind your eyelids, followed by immediate, absolute blackness. Your entire body convulses, an uncontrolled, violent spasm that rips through every single muscle. Your back arches, your teeth clench with such force you feel your jaw might shatter, and a guttural, strangled cry, inhuman and raw, tears from deep within your throat, though you aren't sure if you even hear it yourself over the buzzing, roaring static that fills your head. You feel an immense crushing pressure in your skull, as if your very brain is being squeezed, distorted, ripped apart from within. Your limbs thrash against the leather straps, a desperate, futile struggle, though you are utterly powerless, a puppet on invisible strings. The world becomes a chaotic blur of internal light and sound, a maelstrom of raw, overwhelming sensation. You are no longer yourself, you are merely a vessel for this violent, uncontrollable current. Time stretches, contracts, ceases to exist. There's a moment, a terrifying, lucid flicker, where you feel your consciousness slipping, dissolving into the chaotic buzz, a sensation of being torn from your very essence. Then, as abruptly as it began, it stops. The buzzing in your head slowly, painfully recedes, leaving behind a profound ringing like a distant bell. The blinding light fades, replaced by the persistent, murky gloom of the room. Your body sags against the restraints, every muscle aching, trembling uncontrollably, a lingering tremor still vibrating through your limbs. You gasp, trying to draw a deep breath, but your lungs feel bruised, inadequate. Your head throbs with a dull, insistent pain, and a profound disorientation settles over you, a foggy numbness that blurs the edges of reality. Through the haze, you slowly open your eyes. The nurses are still there, their faces still unreadable, but your gaze is drawn to the physician. He stands beside the whirring generator, his cold, piercing blue eyes fixed upon you. There's no pity, no remorse, no flicker of human emotion, only a detached, almost scientific curiosity. He makes a quick, precise notation in his ledger, his pen scratching quietly, methodically, as if he's simply recording a successful experiment. His gaze lingers for a moment, a calculating assessment of your shattered state before he turns back to his notes. You are left in the chair, a trembling, broken thing, profoundly violated. The current has passed, but its echo remains, a hollowed-out ache in your mind, a memory of a force that reached deep inside you and twisted something vital. You're exhausted, aren't you? The electric current still a phantom hum in your bones, your body a landscape of aches. But now, as you're led back to your bed, there's a small, dark bottle in the nurse's hand. You eye it with a mix of dread and a strange, desperate curiosity. She pours a measure into a small, tarnished spoon. The liquid itself is thick, almost syrupy, a dark, viscous brown that swirls with an oily sheen. It smells faintly of alcohol, pungent and sweet, with an underlying, unfamiliar bitterness that makes your stomach clench instinctively. She brings the spoon to your lips, firm but not unkind. There's no negotiation, no refusal. Your jaw is gently but firmly guided open, and then you taste it. It's an immediate, aggressive bitterness that assaults your tongue, quickly followed by the sharp, burning kick of raw spirits, which coats your mouth and throat. It's an acrid, medicinal flavor, profoundly unpleasant, a taste that lingers long after you've swallowed, clinging to your palate and the back of your throat like a persistent, unwelcome shadow. You try to swallow it down, to chase it with a desperate gulp of air, but the taste is tenacious, clinging. It feels like a small fire, then a cold knot forming in your stomach. A few moments pass and the world begins to subtly shift. The sharp edges of the ward's cacophony, the constant low moans and sudden shouts, start to soften, to recede, as if a thick, unseen curtain is slowly being drawn between you and the noise. Your head, already heavy from exhaustion and the lingering aftermath of the current, begins to feel even heavier, a leaden weight that wants to sink back into the lumpy straw mattress. A warmth, slow and insidious, spreads through your limbs, a creeping lassitude that makes your muscles feel strangely slack, distant. Your eyelids grow heavy, almost impossibly so, resisting every effort to keep them fully open. The dim light of the gas lamps, usually harsh and unforgiving, blurs around the edges, becoming a hazy, indistinct glow. Your vision, already poor in this perpetual twilight, softens, colors fading, shapes becoming less defined, less insistent. Thoughts, usually a frantic, unceasing torrent, slow to a sluggish crawl. They feel thick, cottony, like trying to grasp smoke. It's not oblivion, not yet, but a deliberate, slow descent into a profound fog. You try to hold onto a thought, a memory, a name, perhaps your own or a loved one's, but it slips through your grasp, elusive, indistinct, like a dream fading upon waking. The bitter taste still lingers, a subtle reminder of the chemical quietude stealing over you. You close your eyes, not in protest but in surrender, feeling the subtle rocking motion of your consciousness as it drifts. The world outside, the cruel reality of the asylum, begins to recede, replaced by an inner landscape of shifting shadows and formless quiet. This laudanum, this bitter elixir, isn't a cure, you realize, but a suspension. It doesn't heal. It simply numbs, cloaking your pain, your fear, your very self in a dense, impenetrable cloud. And in this slow, gentle pull into induced oblivion, you wonder, with a fading flicker of clarity, what remains of you when even your own mind becomes a stranger, a landscape lost to the fog. The bitter tang of laudanum clings to your throat, an echo in a mind dissolving into soft, indistinct edges. Your heart's frantic beat slows, the ward's cacophony retreats, a heavy blanket drawn over all sound. Distant cries, sudden bursts, they mute, imperceptible. A profound, thick silence descends, pressing in, a low hum replacing all else. You lie on the lumpy straw mattress, rough wool a distant irritation. Discomfort soften, blurred by the encroaching fog. Your limbs feel impossibly heavy, sinking, yet strangely weightless, detached. Lifting a hand is immense effort, muscles refuse to obey. The dim gaslight, usually stark, now spreads into a diffuse halo, edges indistinct. Shadows lengthen, blurring beds and figures lost to the quiet. You blink slowly, heavily. Darkness feels more inviting, absolute, a velvet curtain promising release. Time ceases. No bells mark hours, no subtle light shifts. Minutes bleed into indistinguishable moments, into eternities. You don't know if it's hours, days, or seconds. Past, future, they dissolve. Only a ceaseless, unchanging present remains. Thoughts, a turbulent torrent, are now a slow, languid stream, barely coherent. Names, faces, memories, they drift like smoke, beautiful but ungraspable. You feel a profound detachment, an eerie calm. This isn't true peace, not freedom, but engineered oblivion. Laudanum hasn't cured madness. It's veiled it, dulled its sharp edges, wrapped it in a heavy, comforting silence. You are suspended, a quiet observer of your fading existence, a ghost in your own body. In this strange, timeless limbo, you realize the insidious power of forced tranquility, to erase not just pain but the very essence of who you are, leaving only an echo of consciousness, quietly drifting, forever lost in the fog. You're no longer in the sedated ward, are you? The fog of the laudanum has lifted, leaving you raw, exposed, and acutely aware. The air here is different too. It's thin, cold, almost brittle, carrying a sharp, clean scent of antiseptic, mingled with that persistent metallic tang of iron that you now associate with impending dread. You shiver, a deep, uncontrollable tremor, as the chill bites into your skin. Your gaze is drawn irresistibly to a small, polished table that gleams wickedly in the dim, unforgiving light of a single gas lamp. It's covered with a crisp white cloth, stark against the dark wood, and on that cloth, laid out with chilling precision, is a collection of instruments, surgical steel. It catches the feeble light, reflecting it back in a cold, sterile gleam that promises anything but comfort. Each piece is meticulously arranged, a silent, terrifying arsenal. You see the scalpel first, its blade impossibly thin, a sliver of mirror-bright steel, glinting with a razor-sharp edge. Then forceps, long and slender, designed for a delicate, invasive grasp. But your eyes are inevitably drawn to the most ominous of them all, the trepanation saw. It's a small, circular blade with finely serrated teeth set into a handle. It looks like a miniature carpenter's tool, yet its purpose here is horrifyingly clear. The metal gleams, reflecting distorted images of the stark room, of your own wide, terrified eyes. You imagine the cold, brutal precision of its edge, the scraping sound it would make against bone. A cold knot forms in your stomach, tightening with a profound, visceral dread. The physician stands over the table, his dark suit a solemn silhouette against the pale wall. He isn't looking at you. His attention is entirely consumed by the instruments, his movements slow, deliberate, almost reverent as he runs a gloved finger along the edge of the scalpel, testing its sharpness. Beside him, a nurse holds a small, steaming basin from which a faint medicinal vapor rises, adding to the sterile, oppressive atmosphere. You see her eyes dart to you for a fraction of a second, a flicker of something unreadable before she quickly averts her gaze, her face once again impassive. Their detachment is absolute chilling. He picks up the trepanation saw, holding it aloft for a moment, examining its teeth against the light. You hear a faint, almost imperceptible asterisk clink as another instrument is placed down beside it. The sound resonates in the sterile silence, a tiny, sharp declaration of what is to come. Every nerve ending in your body screams in silent protest, a desperate, animalistic urge to flee, to escape this cold, clinical theater. Your throat feels tight, constricted, unable to utter a sound even if you found the words. You feel a profound sense of helplessness, strapped to a chair, unable to move, unable to even avert your gaze from the gleaming instruments of your impending torment. This isn't just about pain, you realize. It's about a profound violation, an invasion of the very seat of your being. And as that sterile gleam dances mockingly in your eyes, you wonder with a chilling certainty what parts of your mind, what fragments of your soul, will remain intact after such a deliberate, brutal breach. You're strapped down, aren't you? Utterly immobilized. The sterile gleam of the surgical steel is the last thing your eyes fix upon before the physician leans closer, blocking your view of the dim gaslight. The sharp, clean scent of antiseptic, mingled with something metallic and cold, fills your nostrils as he hovers over you. You feel a cold, firm pressure on your scalp, the subtle parting of your hair, then the shocking touch of something even colder, a metal disc perhaps pressing hard against your skin. You flinch instinctively, but your head is held firm by the nurses on either side, their grip unyielding. Then you hear it, a low, almost imperceptible scrape, distant at first, then closer insistently. It's a rhythmic, grating sound, a dull, horrifying whisper against bone, the trepanation saw. You feel a peculiar vibration deep within your skull, a bone-deep hum that resonates through your very teeth, making your jaw clench. It's not a sharp pain yet, more a profound, sickening pressure, a brutal invasion of your inner sanctum. Each slow rotation of the saw's teeth against the resistant bone sends a cold dread spiraling through your entire body. The physician's face is close, his cold, blue eyes peering down at you, but not seeing you, not truly. There's a focused intensity in his gaze, a detached curiosity that chills you more than any ice bath. He is not looking at a person, you realize, but at a problem, a mechanism to be fixed. You imagine him seeing not your mind, but a faulty cog, a damaged spring, a lesion that needs to be removed, a bad humor to be released. This intrusion, this methodical assault on your skull, is his method of expelling the invisible demons, the unseen imperfections that he believes have twisted your sanity. You feel the coppery tang of fear mixed with something else, something primal and metallic rising in your throat, as the grating sound continues, relentless. You try to focus, to hold onto a thought, a memory, anything that reminds you of yourself, but the rhythmic scraping, the bone-deep vibration, seems to shake your very consciousness. Your mind, already worn thin by weeks of torment, struggles to maintain its coherence. The world narrows to this single brutal sensation, this profound violation of the most sacred part of your being. You feel less like a patient being treated and more like an object, a specimen under a knife, being meticulously clinically altered. The subtle sounds of the operating theatre, the soft rustle of the nurses' uniforms, the faint clink of another instrument being placed down, the physician's low, indistinct murmurs, they all contribute to a horrifying sense of detachment, a calculated violence veiled by the guise of scientific progress. You sense the delicate membrane of your mind being breached, not by words or understanding, but by cold steel and brute force. This isn't a cure, you realize, with a chilling certainty that sinks into your very soul. This is an alteration, an irreversible violation, a permanent chiseling away of the very essence of who you are. And as the sickening scrape continues, you wonder if any part of your original self will survive this deliberate, brutal reshaping, or if you will emerge, irrevocably, an entirely new, unrecognizable being. The harsh clatter of tin plates against scarred wooden tables cuts through the persistent murmur of the asylum's dining hall. It's a louder, more chaotic sound than the ward's usual drone, but no less devoid of comfort. The air hangs heavy with the stale scent of yesterday's gruel, mingled with a faint metallic tang from the cutlery and the damp stone walls. You sit rigidly on a hard, backless bench, the rough wool of your uniform itching, your shoulders aching from the incessant scrubbing. Your own small portion of watery broth and a single meager crust of bread sit before you, looking entirely unappetizing. You eye it with a familiar weariness. Your gaze drifts, as it often does, across the rows of patients, all in their identical grey, hunched over their bowls. The ever-present nurses patrol the aisles, their starched aprons rustling faintly, their eyes sharp, missing nothing. It's a sea of silent, sedated figures, each one a testament to the asylum's crushing routine. You feel the heavy weight of their collective despair, a thick, suffocating blanket that smothers any flicker of hope. But then you see her, 3 tables down, a woman with unnaturally pale skin and eyes that seem too large for her face. Her hair, thin and wispy, is pulled back severely. She's not eating, just staring blankly at her hands, which pick aimlessly at the rough fabric of her uniform. Your eyes meet. For a fraction of a second, something passes between you, a flicker of recognition, a shared understanding of this bleak existence, a wordless acknowledgement that transcends the pervasive madness. There's no smile, no overt gesture, just that profound, silent connection, quickly broken as a nurse passes, making her avert her gaze. You look down at your own crust of bread, dry and hard, barely enough to quell the gnawing hunger. You break off a small piece, a crumbly corner, and clench it in your palm, feeling its rough texture. Then, as if on cue, a momentary distraction ripples through the dining hall, a sudden, distant shout from the kitchen, drawing a nurse's attention away for a precious second. It's now or never. With a swift, almost imperceptible movement, you nudge the tiny piece of bread from your palm and let it drop to the floor. Your foot, clad in its rough, institutional shoe, follows, nudging it forward ever so slightly under the table. Your eyes dart up, scanning for any sign of observation, but the nurse's back is still turned. The bread moves slowly, inch by painstaking inch, towards the woman's feet. You don't look directly at her, but you feel her gaze, a silent question. Then you see it, a flicker of movement from her foot, barely a twitch. She bends, slow and deliberate, a movement almost too subtle to catch, and then her hand disappears beneath the table. When it reappears, it's empty, the crust is gone. Your heart gives a small, unexpected lurch, a warmth spreading through your chest that has nothing to do with the watery broth. There's no acknowledgement, no nod, not even a glance. The moment passes, swallowed by the clatter and the watchful eyes, but you know she knows. In this place of absolute deprivation, of enforced anonymity, a tiny act of shared humanity, a secret defiance of the rules has taken place. It's a fragile, desperate spark in the overwhelming darkness, a reminder that even when everything else is stripped away, the capacity for connection, for kindness, for a silent, defiant act of grace can still stubbornly endure. And in that small, stolen moment, you realize that perhaps, just perhaps, the self is not entirely lost, not yet, in this veiled madness. That brief, unspoken exchange in the dining hall, the shared glance over the crust of bread, it settles in you, a peculiar warmth in the cold, hollow space of your chest. It's a tiny ember of connection, fragile yet potent. Now you start to see it everywhere, or perhaps you merely notice what was always there. The asylum's true, unspoken language, a complex web of minute gestures, knowing looks and shared silences amongst the patients. You observe the woman from the dining hall, her name still a mystery, yet her presence now holds a different weight. Her eyes, usually fixed downwards, occasionally lift, sweeping across the ward, and sometimes her gaze finds yours. There's no smile, no overt greeting, but a subtle shift in her expression, a softening around the eyes, a tiny, almost imperceptible nod that only you could ever truly decipher. It's a silent conspiratorial dance, an acknowledgement that you are both somehow in on the same secret. You begin to understand the nuances. A brief held stare with another patient can communicate a world of shared suffering, a silent plea, or a flicker of defiant resilience. A slow, deliberate blink from a figure across the room, catching your eye when a nurse's back is turned, feels like a whispered word of caution. The way a woman near the window slowly, almost unconsciously, draws a finger through the condensation on the glass, then quickly wipes it away, you realize it's a moment of lost thought, a fleeting touch of individuality in a place designed to erase it. You find yourself mirroring these small acts, a subtle tilt of your head, a fleeting glance, a shared sigh that's just a little too deliberate to be accidental. This unspoken communication, this fragile network of understanding, becomes a lifeline in the suffocating monotony. You feel the invisible threads of these connections, delicate yet tenacious, weaving through the oppressive air of the ward. They offer a fleeting comfort, a sense of not being entirely alone in your terrifying isolation. The weight of the other patients, once a source of dread, now feels like a shared burden, almost a shield. You understand that beneath the uniforms, beneath the prescribed madness, there are still individuals, fragments of selves clinging to a perilous, secret alliance. But you also feel the tension, the constant, low thrum of danger. These alliances are fragile, easily shattered by a nurse's sharp glance, an orderly's heavy footsteps. You see the immediate, rigid composure that falls over a patient if they sense observation, the way a brief flicker of connection can be instantly extinguished, leaving only the blank, empty stare expected of them. You learn to be subtle, to be quick, to make your unspoken exchanges fleeting, almost imperceptible. This is a dangerous game, played in the shadows of the asylum's relentless scrutiny. In this grim, silent language, you find a new form of resistance. It's not a scream, not an act of defiance, but a quiet, tenacious refusal to be utterly alone, to be completely erased. And in these fragile alliances of the damned, forged in shared suffering and communicated through the merest flick of an eye, you realize a profound truth. Even when stripped of everything, the human spirit instinctively seeks connection, a desperate, silent whisper against the crushing weight of isolation, proving that madness can cloak the mind, but perhaps can never fully extinguish the vital spark of shared humanity. You feel it cool and yielding beneath your rough institutional shoes, not the hard, unfeeling stone of the ward nor the cold, sharp ceramic of the hydrotherapy room, but something soft, giving, earth. It's damp, a subtle give beneath your weight, and there's a surprising resilience to it, a texture unlike anything you've known for weeks. A faint, earthy scent rises, clean and rich, instantly replacing the oppressive, stale odors of carbolic acid and despair that have clung to you. You instinctively flex your toes, feeling the subtle unevenness of the soil through the thin soles. It's a shock, a profound reacquaintance with the world outside. You've been led with the usual brisk efficiency through a heavy bolted door that usually remains shut. Now you're in a small enclosed garden, a patch of green surrounded by high, forbidding walls that still promise imprisonment, yet hold the sky above. The air is surprisingly fresh, crisp, carrying the faintest hint of a breeze. Even the pale, watery sunlight feels different here, less filtered, more alive, touching your face with a fleeting, gentle warmth that feels like a forgotten caress. Then you smell it. Overriding the subtle earthiness, cutting through the lingering memory of institutional stench, is a scent so utterly unexpected, so profoundly beautiful, it almost brings tears to your eyes. The sweet, heady perfume of a rose. It's rich, delicate, intensely fragrant, a profound sensory assault of pure, unadulterated beauty. It smells of freedom, of distant summers, of a world that existed before these walls. You pause, drawing a deeper breath, trying to fill your lungs with every exquisite molecule, to imprint this fragile memory onto your very soul. Your eyes, accustomed to the muted greys and sickly greens, search frantically for the source. And there it is, tucked against a crumbling stone wall, almost defiant in its presence, a single rose bush. Its leaves are a vibrant, living green, and amidst them, a solitary bloom, a deep, velvety crimson, its petals unfurling in perfect, complex layers. It's a breathtaking splash of color, almost blinding in its intensity, a stark, rebellious contrast to the dull uniform you wear, to the faded despair of this place. You reach out, your fingers trembling slightly, drawn by an irresistible urge. You feel the cool, firm surface of a petal, smooth and impossibly soft against your rough, chapped skin. A tiny thorn pricks your fingertip, a sharp, momentary pain, a reminder of its resilience, its wildness. You don't recoil. Instead, you bring your hand closer, inhaling the potent fragrance again, feeling its sweetness flood your senses, awakening something dormant within you. A nurse, observing from a distance, calls out a curt instruction, and you're gently but firmly guided away, the moment broken. But the scent lingers on your fingertips, a fragile, sweet ghost. That cool, damp earth, that sweet rose, they're a cruel reminder of a world lost, of beauty imprisoned. Yet in that brief, stolen encounter, you realize something profound. Even in the deepest recesses of this veiled madness, life and beauty can stubbornly persist, a fragile testament to hope, a fleeting connection to the world you once knew, a world that refuses to be entirely forgotten. That brief touch of earth, the stolen scent of the rose, it's a profound reawakening, isn't it? And now you're allowed to linger, to step deeper into this unexpected pocket of green. The air here in this enclosed garden is crisper, lighter than anything within the asylum's walls. It carries a clean, damp scent of rich soil, wet leaves, and the subtle, lingering perfume of blossoms, a stark, breathtaking contrast to the pervasive carbolic acid and stale human despair. You feel the gentle breath of a breeze, a faint caress against your cheek, ruffling the rough fabric of your uniform, stirring a forgotten sensation of freedom in your skin. You walk slowly, tentatively, feeling the subtle crunch of gravel under your rough shoes. It's a purposeful pathway, neatly laid, guiding your steps through carefully arranged flower beds. Here, order reigns even in nature. Hedges are clipped with precise lines, rose bushes stand in regimented rows, their vibrant colors a startling splash against the monotonous gray of the surrounding high walls. It's a cultivated sanity, you realize, a carefully constructed illusion of peace, meticulously maintained to keep chaos at bay. You see other patients here too. Some sit on iron benches, their faces upturned towards the pale, watery sunlight, their expressions unnaturally calm, almost vacant. Others move with a quiet, methodical slowness, tending to small plots, weeding with an almost ritualistic precision under the watchful eyes of the nurses who patrol the perimeter. Their movements are muted, their voices, if any, are soft, almost whispers, lost in the gentle rustle of leaves. The constant, disturbing cacophony of the main ward feels distant here, a muffled, almost dreamlike memory, replaced by the faint chirping of unseen birds and the soft sigh of the wind. You reach out, touching a cool, dewy leaf, feeling the intricate network of its veins under your fingertips. It's alive, vibrantly so, a tiny testament to a world beyond these walls. You inhale deeply, trying to fill your lungs, to cleanse your spirit with every breath of this pure, untainted air. This garden is a sanctuary, yes, but a fragile one, perpetually overlooked by the towering, unforgiving brickwork, a reminder that true freedom remains just out of reach. A nurse's clear, sharp voice calls out then, a reminder of the time, of the boundaries. The brief, fragile truce with nature is over. You are gently, yet firmly, guided back towards the heavy, bolted door that leads you back into the asylum's oppressive embrace. The garden recedes behind you, its colors and scents fading with every step, leaving only a lingering memory, a precious, stolen moment of grace. And in that brief, precious interval of cultivated sanity, you grasp a profound truth. This garden, this meticulously arranged patch of nature, serves not just to soothe the troubled mind, but to offer a stark, poignant contrast to the chaos within. It's a cruel mercy, a glimpse of beauty in confinement that only deepens the ache for a world truly unfettered. It teaches you that even the most meticulously controlled environment can't fully stifle the defiant beauty of life, nor the desperate human longing for it. But it also reminds you that such moments are fleeting, easily withdrawn, leaving you to wonder how long a memory of a rose can truly sustain a soul within a cage. You're back in the ward, aren't you? That fragile piece of the garden, a fading memory swallowed by the familiar clamor and the oppressive, carbolic-laden air. But something has shifted within you, a spark. That taste of earth, that scent of rose, they've ignited a desperate burning need for something of your own, something to anchor your fading self. It begins with a secret, a small dark shard, cold and rough against your palm, concealed within the folds of your coarse uniform. Stolen charcoal, you found it miraculously, accidentally dropped by a careless orderly who had been tending a small, unlit stove in a back corridor. It's an illicit treasure, a forbidden tool for expression, a tiny rebellion. You feel the thrill of its secret weight, the danger of its discovery, a pulse of defiance that quickens your heart. Later, in the suffocating darkness of the night, when the gas lamps are dimmed to mere embers and the nurse's footsteps are distant, you slip from your lumpy straw mattress. The cold stone floor bites at your bare feet, but you barely notice. The ward is a landscape of soft moans and restless shuffles, a constant, unsettling lullaby that masks your quiet movements. You creep to a vacant patch of wall near the edge of your bed where the shadows are deepest, where the ever-present eyes of authority are least likely to penetrate. You drop to your knees, the rough wool of your uniform scraping against the cold stone. Your hand, trembling slightly with a mix of fear and desperate anticipation, reaches into the folds of your garment, withdrawing the charcoal. Its dryness, its gritty texture feels strangely alive in your grasp. You press its tip to the wall and then you begin. Scratch, scratch, a faint, rasping sound almost imperceptible against the ward's drone, yet deafening to your heightened senses. The charcoal leaves a thin, ghostly grey line on the rough, pale stone. It's a moment of profound, liberating action. You are creating, not just moving laundry or scrubbing floors. You are making your mark. You draw frantically at first, then with a growing, desperate focus. Not pictures, not coherent scenes, but shapes. Lines that twist and turn, forming abstract patterns, echoing the confusion in your mind. Circles within squares, intersecting diagonals, frantic, overlapping swirls that seem to capture the turbulent chaos of your inner world. You feel the rough resistance of the stone against the charcoal, the gritty dust that rubs off onto your fingertips. It's a sensory experience, a tactile connection to the act of creation, a desperate attempt to externalize the unseen. Your fingers ache, cramped from the effort. Your breath comes in shallow, quick gasps. Your eyes dart nervously towards the distant gleam of a gas lamp, towards the fleeting shadow of a passing nurse. Each line is a risk, each stroke a defiance, but you cannot stop. This desperate scratch on the cold stone floor isn't about art, it's about existence. It's a primal urge to leave a trace, to prove you are still here, still capable of thought, of feeling, of self-expression, even if those expressions are now fractured, veiled, and utterly beyond the understanding of the sane. And in that silent, dangerous act, you realize a profound truth. Even when all other forms of communication are denied, the human spirit will find a way to speak, to assert its presence, a desperate scratch in the darkness against the overwhelming force of erasure. The charcoal, that gritty whisper of defiance against the cold stone, has left its mark, hasn't it? A small, secret rebellion in the suffocating darkness of the ward. But the true battle, you realize, isn't on the walls, it's within you. It's the desperate, relentless fight to preserve your inner world, to keep a tiny, flickering flame of self alive against the relentless winds of the asylum. You lie on your lumpy straw mattress now, the rough wool of your uniform chafing, the ward's cacophony a dull roar around you. Your eyes are open, staring up into the perpetual gloom, but you're no longer truly seeing the faded walls, the indistinct shapes of other beds. Your gaze is inward. You close your eyes and a different world unfolds. It's a world of memories, fragile yet intensely vivid. You recall the exact scent of a summer rose from a garden long ago, the feel of warm sun on your face, the laughter of a child, the precise shade of a beloved dress. You conjure faces, familiar and loved, their expressions clear, their voices echoing softly in the silence of your mind, a stark contrast to the real-world shrieks and moans. You reconstruct entire rooms, complete with the intricate patterns of wallpaper, the specific creak of a floorboard, the exact way the light fell through a window at a particular time of day. These aren't just thoughts. They are meticulously crafted sanctuaries built brick by brick from the fragments of your past. You do this consciously, deliberately. It's an exercise, a ritual of preservation. You pick a memory, hold it, turn it over, examine every detail, every sensory input, making it as real as the rough straw beneath you. You taste a forgotten meal, feel a long-lost touch, hear a melody that only exists in your mind. The sounds of the asylum try to intrude, to shatter these delicate constructs, but you push them back, fiercely, stubbornly, retreating deeper into your mental fortress. This act of remembering, of recreating, becomes your ultimate defiance. They can strip you of your name, your clothes, your freedom, even attempt to rewire your brain with their cruel currents and saws. They can confine your body, sedate your senses, and label your mind. But they cannot enter here, into this inner sanctum you have so painstakingly built. This is your kingdom, unseen, unheard, untouched. You hold onto these fragments, these precious shards of your former self, not just as memories, but as proof. Proof that you existed outside these walls, that you were loved, that you once knew joy, that your mind, however veiled, still possesses the capacity for complex thought, for intricate feeling. Each remembered detail is a weapon against the erasure, a silent shout against the crushing anonymity. And in this profound, solitary act of preserving your inner world, of constructing a mental universe that is entirely your own, you grasp the most fundamental truth of human existence. They can break the body, they can attempt to shatter the mind, but the deepest, most resilient part of the self, the essence of who you are, can still find a way to stubbornly, defiantly endure, veiled perhaps by madness, but never truly extinguished. This inner world, you realize, is not just a refuge, it is the last, unassailable frontier of your humanity. The familiar, suffocating air of the ward, thick with carbolic acid and stale human despair, is suddenly pierced by something utterly alien, profoundly shocking. It's a scent that hits you like a physical blow, cutting through everything. The sharp, invigorating tang of autumn leaves, newly fallen and damp, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper of wood smoke clinging to fabric, and beneath it all, the clean, crisp promise of fresh, open air, of distant rain, of a world utterly beyond these walls. You inhale sharply, a desperate, instinctive gasp, trying to fill your lungs with every exquisite molecule. It's intoxicating, almost overwhelming, a potent reminder of everything you've lost. Your eyes, drawn by this sensory intrusion, land on the source. A visitor. She stands stiffly at the entrance to the ward, flanked by two nurses, her presence a jarring splash of vibrant life in this muted landscape. Her dress is a deep, rich plum color, the fabric soft velvet, utterly unlike the coarse wool of your uniform. A delicate lace collar peeks from beneath her shawl, and a small, feathered hat sits jauntily upon her head. Her gloved hands, so impossibly elegant, clasp a small reticule. Every detail from the sheen of her boots to the glint of a tiny pearl earring screams of an outside world, a world of choice, of freedom, of warmth. The nurses maintain a respectful distance, their own starched uniforms seeming to pale in her presence. Their gazes are cautious, watchful, ensuring no patient approaches too closely. The visitor, in turn, seems nervous, her eyes darting quickly across the rows of silent grey figures, lingering for a moment on faces, then quickly moving on, a slight tremor in her posture. She doesn't speak, not directly to anyone here. Her presence is a visual and olfactory echo, a phantom limb of the life you once knew. You watch her, utterly transfixed, your breath catching in your throat, that smell. It's a cruel, beautiful torment. It conjures images of bustling London streets, of horse-drawn carriages clattering over cobbles, of shop windows aglow with gaslight, of laughter and conversation. It's the scent of life unfolding, oblivious to the grim reality within these walls. Your heart aches with a longing so intense it's almost unbearable, a physical pain in your chest. You want to reach out, to plead, to simply inhale more of that outside world, to cling to it, to absorb its essence until it fills your very being. But she turns then, a hesitant farewell nod to the nurses, and is guided away, disappearing back through the heavy door. The tantalizing scent lingers for a moment, a fading ghost, before the oppressive, familiar odors of the asylum reclaim the air. That fleeting moment, that potent, exquisite smell, is now a burning memory, a stark, painful contrast to the perpetual grey of your existence. And in that brief, painful encounter, you realize the insidious power of a single scent, to hold an entire world, to offer a glimpse of what's lost, and to intensify with unbearable clarity the profound depth of your imprisonment. That tantalizing scent of autumn leaves and wood smoke, the phantom whisper of the outside world, it still clings to the air, doesn't it? A cruel, beautiful memory. But now, it's not just a passing ghost. The elegant visitor in her plum velvet dress moves. Her dainty leather boots, so impossibly clean, click hesitantly on the cold stone floor, a sound alien to the ward's usual scuffles and moans. She walks slowly, her gaze sweeping over the rows of patients until her eyes, wide with a brittle sorrow you recognize, finally settle on you. You feel a profound jolt, a physical tremor that runs through your entire body. Your heart, usually dulled by laudanum and routine, begins to pound with a frantic, desperate rhythm. She approaches your bed, stopping a few feet away, her presence a vibrant, almost unbearable splash of color and life in your muted world. A new scent accompanies her now, a delicate floral perfume cloyingly sweet, a stark contrast to the hospital's sterile tang. It speaks of gardens, of drawing rooms, of a life so far removed it feels like a dream. She doesn't speak immediately. Her gloved hand, impossibly pale against the dark fabric of her dress, lifts slightly, a hesitant, almost fearful gesture. Her eyes, filled with an unreadable mix of pity and a profound, veiled discomfort, search your face. You try to respond, to form a word, any word, to bridge the terrifying chasm between your two worlds. Your throat constricts, dry and aching, and no sound emerges, only a faint, involuntary gasp, caught by the persistent pressure of the canvas uniform. A nurse, ever present, steps subtly closer to the visitor, her starched apron rustling softly. Her presence is a silent, firm barrier, a gentle reminder of the unspoken rules. The visitor glances at the nurse, a fleeting, almost apologetic look before turning back to you. Her lips move then, a soft, hesitant murmur. You strain to hear, but the words are lost in the hum of the ward, or perhaps they are simply too gentle, too distant for your ears, accustomed to screams and silence. You imagine a question, a platitude, a polite expression of concern that feels utterly hollow in this place. You reach out, an instinctive, desperate twitch of your hand, a futile attempt to make contact, to communicate the raw, overwhelming truth of your imprisonment, your fading identity, the desperate struggle to simply be. But your movements are sluggish, constrained by the lingering effects of the sedatives and the straps of your uniform. The nurse steps forward, her arm a firm yet unobtrusive barrier. The visitor's expression deepens, a flash of heartbreak in her eyes quickly masked. She nods slowly, a small, sad gesture, her gaze dropping from yours to the lumpy straw mattress, as if seeing for the first time the grim reality of your existence. Her shoulders slump, a visible deflation of her vibrant energy. She murmurs something to the nurse, a low whisper that holds the unmistakable timbre of finality. Then she turns. Her retreat is swift, almost a flight. The rustle of her dress, the faint click of her boots quickly recedes down the corridor. You watch her go, a fading splash of plum and lace, carrying with her the intoxicating scent of the outside world, leaving you behind. The heavy door sighs shut, not with a clang this time, but a soft, dull thud that echoes with absolute finality. The silence that follows is immense, suffocating, heavier than before. The fragile thread of connection, the fleeting hope she represented, is brutally severed. You are left once again with the familiar smells of carbolic acid and despair, the relentless cacophony of the ward, and the crushing weight of your own isolation. This isn't just being left alone, it's the heartbreak of being seen, however briefly, and then deliberately, painfully abandoned. The night in the asylum is a different beast, isn't it? The gas lamps are mere distant embers, casting long, dancing shadows that swallow most of the ward. The cacophony of the day softens, replaced by a restless symphony of moans, whispers, and the rustle of straw as bodies shift on lumpy mattresses. You're adrift in that fragile, restless sleep that barely touches the edges of consciousness, a state of perpetual semi-awareness. The bitter aftertaste of laudanum still lingers, a faint chemical ghost on your tongue, ensuring your mind remains veiled, your edges blurred. Then you feel it, not a rough shove, not the insistent prod of a nurse's hand, but something utterly unexpected, something so gentle it almost feels like a phantom. A light, hesitant touch on your arm just above the elbow. It's barely there, the brush of fingertips against the coarse wool of your uniform, a feather-light pressure that barely breaks the surface of your doze. Your eyes flicker open, slowly, sluggishly, fighting against the heavy pull of the sedatives. The world is a canvas of deep, shifting shadows, the dim light barely illuminating the immediate vicinity of your bed. You turn your head, a slow, deliberate movement, your neck stiff from the uncomfortable mattress, and there she is. The woman from the dining hall, the one with the large eyes and the pale skin. She stands beside your bed, a silent, shadowy figure, her own drab uniform barely visible in the gloom. Her face is indistinct, a vague outline, but her eyes, even in the pervasive darkness, seem to glow with a quiet intensity. She doesn't speak, of course. No one speaks here, not really. But her presence is a profound communication, a silent breaking of the rigid rules that govern this place. Her hand, the same one that had reached for the stolen crust of bread, is still extended, poised just above your arm. The touch was hers. You feel a strange warmth spread through your chilled limb, a warmth that has nothing to do with physical temperature, but everything to do with recognition. It's a moment of pure, unadulterated human connection, a small, fragile spark in the overwhelming darkness. She lowers her hand slowly, pulling it back not with haste, but with a deliberate, almost tender care. Then her arm moves again, but this time her hand doesn't touch you. Instead, it reaches into the folds of her own uniform, a slow, secretive movement. You watch, utterly transfixed, your breath held in your chest. She withdraws her hand, and in its grasp, barely visible in the gloom, is a tiny object. It's small, hard, and you can just make out a faint, dull gleam. A button, perhaps, or a smooth stone. It's impossible to tell. She doesn't offer it, doesn't press it into your hand. Instead, she simply places it gently on the rough blanket that covers you just beside your outstretched arm, a silent offering, a token. Then she turns, her movements as quiet and fluid as a shadow. She glides back towards her own bed, melting into the deeper darkness of the ward, leaving you alone once more. The physical object, whatever it is, rests heavily on the blanket, a tangible testament to her secret visit, her unspoken act of kindness. You lie there perfectly still, the lingering haze of the laudanum battling with this sudden, profound clarity. That gentle touch, that silent offering, it's a moment of profound truth in a world of veiled madness. It cuts through the dehumanizing routine, through the sterile cruelty, revealing a flicker of shared humanity that refuses to be entirely extinguished. And in that tiny, secret gesture, you realize that even in the deepest, most controlled darkness, the human heart can still reach out, can still offer a fragile, defiant moment of comfort, proving that even amidst the damned, a quiet, tenacious empathy can stubbornly endure. That small, silent offering, that fragile object resting on your blanket in the deep, deceptive quiet of the night, it hums with a dangerous energy, doesn't it? Your fingers, still slightly numb from the lingering laudanum, hesitantly reach out, brushing against the rough wool, then seeking the hidden warmth of the token. It's a button, you realize as your fingertips close around it. Not a uniform button, but something polished, perhaps made of horn or bone, smooth and cool against your skin. It carries a faint, indefinable scent, not of carbolic, but of something wilder, a trace of the outside. A secret, a jolt of fear, sharp and cold, cuts through the sedative haze. This isn't just a kindness, it's a transgression. A tangible piece of evidence, a silent witness to a forbidden connection. Your heart begins to pound, a frantic, muffled drum against your ribs. The low moans and restless shuffles of the ward suddenly seem louder, closer, each sound a potential alarm. You hold your breath, straining to hear beyond your own quickened pulse for any sign of approaching footsteps, any telltale rustle of a nurse's starched apron. You glance towards the distant glimmer of the dimmed gas lamp, where the shadows play tricks, distorting familiar forms into monstrous shapes. Any figure could be a nurse, silent and watchful. The weight of the button in your hand feels immense, a tiny, heavy burden of risk. What would happen if it were found? What would be the consequence for her, for you, for this fleeting, desperate alliance? The orderly's brutal efficiency with the defiant patient, the cold, clinical gaze of the physician, these images flash through your mind, stark and terrifying. Your instincts scream, you must hide it, quickly, silently. Your hand moves with a sudden, urgent grace that defies the general sluggishness of your body. You slip the button from the blanket, clenching it tight in your palm, feeling its reassuring solidity. With a swift, almost imperceptible motion, you slide your hand beneath the lumpy straw mattress, pushing the button deep into the rough, dry stalks. It's gone, hidden. Just as your hand withdraws, a faint, rhythmic thump-thump echoes down the corridor. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, unmistakably a nurse on her rounds. Your body tenses, every muscle coiling tight, frozen in absolute stillness. You shut your eyes, feigning a deep, untroubled sleep, your breathing shallow, carefully controlled. The footsteps draw nearer, a chilling crescendo, then pass by your bed, the rustle of fabric almost brushing your face in the oppressive darkness. They continue down the ward, slowly receding, until they finally fade into the restless symphony of the night. You lie there rigid for what feels like an eternity, long after the sound has vanished. Then slowly, painfully, you exhale a silent, trembling breath. Your muscles ache with the effort of stillness, your heart still hammering against your ribs. The button is safe, hidden away, a tiny secret in a world that demands absolute transparency. In that heart-stopping moment of near discovery, you realize the profound, terrifying cost of a single compassionate act in this brutal system. It's not just kindness, it's an act of defiance, a dangerous rebellion against the institutional dehumanization. And you understand with a chilling clarity that even the smallest flicker of humanity, the most innocent gesture of empathy, comes with an immense unspoken price, forever paid in the currency of fear, risk, and the constant, crushing threat of discovery. The routine of the asylum grinds on, doesn't it? But today there's a new urgency in the air, a frantic energy that permeates the familiar clamor of the ward. You feel it first in the movements of the nurses and orderlies, they're swifter, more precise, their usual impassive faces now etched with a subtle tension. There's a buzz, a low current of anticipation, a sense that something is coming, something out of the ordinary, and it's making everyone, even the most sedated patients, subtly agitated. Then the smell hits you. It's an aggressive assault on your nostrils, cutting through the ubiquitous carbolic acid and stale air with a shocking intensity. A powerful, almost cloying aroma of beeswax and turpentine, of furniture polished, strong and insistent. It's meant to be clean, you realize, meant to convey an image of order. But beneath it, still distinct, is the underlying, persistent stench of the asylum, the faint, sickly sweet tang of unwashed bodies, of damp stone, of human waste, a pervasive filth that this frantic burst of polish can only ever mask, never truly erase. You try to take a shallower breath, but the fumes burn the back of your throat, making your eyes water. You're roused from your bed with a brusqueness that is uncharacteristic, even for this place. Shoved rather than guided into a small, dark corridor you haven't seen before. Other patients are being moved too, a silent, shuffling procession, all driven by the same unspoken urgency. The ward itself is in a frenzy of activity. Nurses are wiping down railings, polishing doorknobs until they gleam, their movements jerky and hurried. Orderlies are sweeping the already clean stone floors with fierce, sweeping motions, raising clouds of dust that shimmer in the pale, filtered light. There's an almost desperate energy to their movements, a frantic effort to present an illusion of pristine order. You glimpse the woman from the dining hall, the one who left you the button, her pale face tight with a tension that mirrors your own. Her eyes meet yours for a fleeting second, a shared glance that conveys a silent question, a mutual understanding of the unspoken event that has thrown the asylum into this unusual state of hurried preparedness. This isn't just about routine cleaning, this is about an inspection. The air thickens with the mingled sense of frantic polish and underlying decay. It's a battle, you realize, a desperate fight against the inevitable, against the very nature of this institution. They are trying to hide something, to cover up the undeniable truth of the asylum's grim reality, to present a sanitized version of its existence. You feel a strange mixture of dread and a perverse, morbid curiosity. Who is coming? What will they see? What will they choose to ignore? You are shoved into a small, dark storage room along with a handful of other patients. The air here is stale, heavy with the dust of forgotten things, a momentary reprieve from the frantic activity outside. The heavy door closes with a muffled thud, plunging you into near darkness, but even here the insistent smell of polish, mingled with the indelible scent of hidden filth, still penetrates. And in that suffocating darkness, you understand the insidious nature of appearance, how a superficial shine can be frantically applied to mask a deeper, more profound decay, and how the truth, however well hidden, always leaves its stubborn, lingering odor. You're in that small, dark storage room, aren't you, shoved in with the other unpresentables, the heavy door muffling the frantic activity of the ward outside. The air is stale, thick with dust, and the lingering, aggressive smell of furniture polish trying desperately to mask the undeniable stench of decay. You strain to hear, your senses heightened by the tension, by the unspoken drama unfolding just beyond your makeshift prison. Then you hear them. The measured, confident footsteps of polished leather shoes on the stone floor, distinct from the hurried scurry of the nurses. Not the physician's sharp clicking, but a heavier, more authoritative stride. And then a voice, a deep, resonant baritone, smooth and assured, speaking with an educated cadence. It's accompanied by the familiar, lower rumble of the physician, responding with deferential tones, punctuated by the crisp, attentive whispers of the nurses. They're here, the inspectors. Through a hairline crack in the wood of the door, just barely wide enough for a sliver of vision, you press your eye. The view is distorted, murky, but it's enough. You see them. 3 figures, dark-suited and imposing, moving slowly down the polished hallway of the ward. They hold thick notebooks, their heads nodding occasionally, their faces solemn and unreadable. The asylum for this brief, terrifying period is transformed. The beds are neatly made, the straw mattresses hidden under freshly laundered sheets. The floors, recently scrubbed and polished to a dull sheen, reflect the dim gaslight, hiding the grime and scratches beneath. The usual cacophony of moans and shrieks is muted, suppressed. The melancholic patients sit quietly, almost perfectly still, their vacant stares now seeming more like calm contemplation. The more agitated figures, the ones usually pacing and shouting, are conspicuously absent, no doubt banished like you to some unseen corner to maintain the carefully curated illusion. The physician walks beside the lead inspector, gesticulating occasionally, his voice a smooth, confident murmur, surely enumerating the virtues of their modern treatments, the meticulous order of their daily routine. He gestures towards an empty bed, then to a quiet patient, painting a picture of tranquility and efficiency. The nurses, their faces scrubbed clean of any sign of weariness or pity, stand at attention, responding to unspoken cues, their movements precise, almost theatrical. You watch, a silent, unseen witness to this elaborate charade. It's a performance, a meticulously staged deception designed to showcase a facade of order, of care, of professionalism. The inspectors nod, they murmur, they make notes in their books. They don't linger, they don't peer into the darkened corners, they don't press against the cracks in the walls, they don't question the absence of the truly disturbed. They simply observe the surface, the polished veneer, and absorb the carefully constructed narrative. The procession moves slowly, majestically down the length of the ward, a parade of false reassurance. You watch them pass your hiding place, their footsteps receding, their voices fading. The heavy, polished door to your storage room feels like a physical barrier, keeping the truth in, keeping the lies out. Then the final, distant clang of the main iron gate, the same sound that welcomed you, signals their departure. The tension in the ward immediately begins to dissipate, like a rapidly deflating balloon. The heavy silence is broken by a faint cough, a rustle of straw, a low guttural moan from a recently returned patient. The facade, you realize, has served its purpose. And in that chilling, meticulous performance of order, you grasp the insidious truth. In this world, appearance often triumphs over reality, and the profound suffering of the many can be conveniently hidden behind a carefully orchestrated lie. The air in the physician's office is sharper, colder than the ward, isn't it? It smells of leather-bound books and that perpetual antiseptic, a clean scent that now feels utterly clinical, devoid of warmth. You sit rigidly on the uncomfortable wooden chair, your coarse uniform chafing against your skin, your hands clasped tightly in your lap. The physician, his dark suit impeccable, sits opposite you, his gaze unnervingly steady. Beside him, a nurse stands, ledger open, pen poised. This is your chance, you think, a desperate, fragile hope blooming in your chest. You begin to speak, your voice, thin and unused, feeling alien in the quiet room. You articulate your points carefully, rationally. You explain the circumstances of your arrival, the misunderstandings, the misinterpretations. You recount details, verifiable facts, events that prove your sanity, your former life, your logical mind. You feel a surge of fragile confidence, a desperate need to make them see you, to understand. You look directly at the physician, pleading with your eyes for comprehension, for recognition of your truth. He listens, impassive, his expression unchanging. His cold, blue eyes betray no flicker of empathy, no sign of acceptance. He doesn't interrupt, doesn't respond. He simply observes, a silent, unyielding wall against your desperate truth. You feel your voice begin to waver, a desperate tremor creeping in. You speak faster, trying to cram more facts, more logic into the suffocating silence. You gesture slightly, a small, unbidden movement of your hand, trying to emphasize a point to make it undeniable. Then you see it, his eyes for a brief, chilling moment drop to the nurse's ledger, and then he gives a subtle, almost imperceptible nod. The nurse's pen scratches, a dry, crisp sound that reverberates with a horrifying finality. You don't need to read the words, you know. Each rational point, each desperate plea, each attempt at logical explanation is being meticulously recorded, not as evidence of your sanity but as further proof of your delusion, another symptom to be catalogued. Your earnest gesture, your quickened speech, all twisted, pathologized. A profound, soul-crushing despair washes over you, heavier than any laudanum fog. You feel the utter futility of your words, the terrifying impermeability of their perception. This isn't a conversation, not truly. It's an exercise in redefinition, a systematic dismantling of your reality. And in that chilling scratch of the pen, you realize the ultimate horror. That your very sanity, when filtered through the lens of power and prejudice, can become the most damning evidence against you, sealing your fate in a ledger of lies. That crushing despair after your rational pleas were recorded as symptoms, it gnaws at you, doesn't it? A bitter, metallic taste in your mouth. You're back on the ward, the familiar cacophony swirling around you, but now a new, insidious torment has begun. The psychological battle of performing sanity. You watch the other patients, those who appear calm, compliant. Their eyes, once wide and frantic, are now often downcast, muted. Their movements are slow, deliberate, almost rehearsed. They respond to instructions with an eerie docility, a quiet obedience that feels unnatural. You notice how they carefully avoid eye contact with the nurses, how they keep their hands clasped, how their voices, if they speak at all, are soft, almost inaudible. It's a performance, you realize, a carefully crafted act designed for survival, for avoiding the cold baths, the electric jolts, the solitary cells. You begin to emulate them. Every action becomes a conscious, calculated effort. When a nurse approaches, your head dips slightly, your gaze falling to the rough blanket, mimicking that docile, vacant stare. You force your hands to remain still, clasped tightly in your lap, resisting the urge to fidget, to pick at the coarse wool of your uniform. Your breathing becomes shallow, even, a deliberate rhythm that aims for utter calmness. You consciously slow your movements, walk with a measured, shuffling gait, even when every fiber of your being screams to run, to lash out. The effort is exhausting, a constant internal war. You are always on, perpetually aware of every glance, every movement, every sound. You censor your own thoughts, filtering them through a mental sieve, desperately trying to project an image of serene emptiness. You suppress the rising panic, the gnawing anxiety, the desperate need to scream your truth. You feel the constant, insidious pressure, an invisible weight pressing down on you, demanding conformity, demanding that you erase your true self and replace it with a docile, acceptable mask. The contrast between your inner turmoil and your outward composure becomes a terrifying chasm. Inside, your mind still races, still remembers, still feels the profound injustices. You reconstruct your memories, your inner world with a ferocious intensity, a desperate act of rebellion in the only space left to you. But outside, your face remains blank, your eyes dull, your body a picture of placid obedience. This performance isn't just about deceiving them, it's about deceiving yourself too. You feel the edges of your original personality blurring, softening under the constant pressure. The distinction between the authentic you and the performed, sane patient becomes dangerously thin. You start to question which is real, which is the act. The bitter taste of laudanum, still a ghost on your tongue, seems to reinforce this blurring, this slow, deliberate erosion of yourself. And in this psychological torment, this relentless performance, you grasp a chilling truth, that survival in this brutal system often demands the ultimate sacrifice, the gradual, insidious relinquishing of your true identity, forcing you to become the very thing they believe you to be, until the mask, eventually, threatens to become the only face you have left. You're back in the main hall, aren't you? The long, echoing corridor that greeted you on your first day, thick with the scent of carbolic acid and the low hum of confined despair. But now something utterly, profoundly alien cuts through the familiar silence. A sound that makes your head snap up, your heart give a frantic, disbelieving lurch. Music, it's a waltz. A precise, lilting melody, carried on the thin, reedy voice of a wind-up gramophone. The tinny, distant notes drift down the sterile hallway, each rise and fall a jarring contrast to the monotonous, muffled sounds of the asylum. You hear the rhythmic asterisk pa asterisk, a gentle, almost whimsical cadence that feels terribly, terribly out of place. It's a ghost of gaiety, a phantom of celebration, dancing through a landscape of suffering. You blink, trying to reconcile the elegant, swirling tune with the stark, unyielding reality of your surroundings. It's like hearing laughter at a funeral. You see the source. At the far end of the hall, near the heavy iron gate, a small, dark wooden box sits on a polished table. The gramophone. The physician stands beside it, his dark suit impeccable, a small, almost smug smile playing on his lips. He is observing the patients, his cold blue eyes sweeping across the ward, assessing their reactions. Two nurses stand a little distance away, their faces a carefully neutral blend of attention and apprehension. The other patients react in various unsettling ways. Some twitch, their eyes darting, agitated by the unfamiliar sound. A melancholic woman near you, who usually sits in profound stillness, rocks gently, almost imperceptibly to the rhythm, a faint, lost smile flickering on her lips. Others stare blankly at the gramophone, their faces uncomprehending, as if the sound has no meaning, no connection to their fractured inner worlds. The frantic, agitated figures, those prone to outbursts, are nowhere to be seen, no doubt banished to a quieter cell to prevent any disruption to this demonstration. You feel a strange mixture of emotions, a painful nostalgia for a world where such music was common, where it accompanied joy and connection. A profound unease, because here in this echoing, sterile hall, the waltz feels less like comfort and more like a deliberate, cruel irony. It's a forced, artificial gaiety, a thinly veiled attempt at therapy that feels more like a subtle torment, designed to expose the depth of their affliction or perhaps to mock their inability to respond appropriately. The music continues, its cheerful rhythm filling the empty spaces, bouncing off the cold stone walls with a disorienting echo. You try to close your eyes to block it out, but the tune has already imprinted itself on your mind, a relentless, unsettling earworm. And in that jarring, tinny waltz, played in a place utterly devoid of true joy, you grasp a profound, unsettling truth, that sometimes the most horrific sounds aren't the screams of pain, but the forced melodies of a forgotten life, played in a sterile, echoing hall, revealing the ultimate, terrifying disconnect between appearance and the veiled, brutal reality. The air, usually heavy with carbolic, is thick tonight with something else entirely. A cloying sweetness like cheap confectionery mingles with the faint, unsettling scent of wilting, artificial flowers. And cutting through the asylum's constant hum, a truly bewildering sound, a clumsy off-key orchestra scratching out a cheerful jig. It's not a gramophone this time, it's live, a raw, amateur attempt at gaiety, each strained note vibrating discordantly through your very bones. You're herded, along with dozens of other patients, into a vast hall usually reserved for storage or the most meticulous of inspections. Tonight, it's transformed, or rather attempted to be transformed. Garlands of faded paper flowers hang limply from the high ceilings, streamers once brightly colored droop sadly from grimy rafters. A few sputtering gaslights cast a sickly yellow glow, making the already pale faces of the patients appear spectral, ghost-like. You're all still in your rough, institutional uniforms, of course, but some have been given a pathetic ribbon, a scrap of frayed lace pinned to their chest, a cruel mockery of adornment. The nurses in their stiff, starched whites move among you with an almost feverish cheerfulness, a forced jollity that grates more than any scream. They guide reluctant hands into clumsy attempts at a dance, their smiles wide and unconvincing, stretched taut across their weary faces. You see the physician, impeccable as ever, standing by the makeshift stage, his dark suit a stark silhouette. He surveys the scene with an air of profound satisfaction, his cold blue eyes sweeping across the ward as if this grotesque tableau is irrefutable proof of his benevolent therapy. Patients sway awkwardly, some with vacant stares, others with a manic, unsettling grin that doesn't quite reach their eyes, their movements stiff and unnatural. A woman in a corner, usually profoundly silent, babbles frantically, her words lost in the off-key violins, yet no one seems to notice, or perhaps they simply choose not to. The more agitated figures, those prone to outbursts, are conspicuously absent tonight, no doubt banished to some quieter, darker cell to maintain the carefully curated illusion. You feel a profound disconnect, a chill that has nothing to do with the hall's damp air. This isn't joy, not true human connection. It's a staged performance, a macabre ballet of the confined, designed to present an image of healing to unseen benefactors, or perhaps to further break the spirits of those forced to participate. The cheerful music, meant to uplift, only deepens your sense of despair, making the reality of your imprisonment feel even more acute, more relentlessly cruel. And as you watch the other patients move through this forced gaiety, swaying to their unsettling, off-key tune, a terrifying thought takes root. In a place where even celebration is a performance, a deliberate act of psychological manipulation, what parts of your soul can truly survive, and how long before you too learn to dance to their unsettling melody, losing yourself entirely in this grotesque, heartbreaking parody of normalcy? You feel it cold and rough against your fingertips, not the smooth institutional stone but the coarse, uneven surface of bare brickwork. It crumbles slightly under your tentative touch, leaving a fine, gritty dust on your skin, a sensation of forbidden textures. The air here in this shadowed, forgotten alcove you've found is stale, thicker with the scent of damp earth and old mortar than the usual carbolic sting. It's the dead of night, the asylum's gas lamps barely glowing, painting the ward in long, deceptive shadows. The low hum of distant moans and shuffles provides a restless cover for your movements. Your hand clenches around a jagged piece of loose stone, a small, illicit tool you've patiently unearthed. You press it against the brick carefully, deliberately, then begin to move it. Scrape, scrape. A low, insistent sound barely audible over your own ragged breathing, yet deafening in the profound silence of your desperate act. You feel the resistance, the stubborn, unyielding nature of the wall, yet with each scrape, a faint powder drifts down, a tiny victory. Your muscles ache, taut with the effort, with the profound fear of discovery. Your heart thumps, a frantic drum against your ribs, warning you, urging you on, threatening to betray you. You work with a desperate, silent intensity, your eyes darting nervously towards the far end of the ward, towards the faint gleam of the distant duty nurse's lamp. Every shadow feels like a watching eye, every distant cough a prelude to discovery. The image of the asylum garden, the memory of that crimson rose, flashes in your mind, a potent fuel for this reckless, impossible dream of escape. Just a little more, you think, just enough to loosen a larger brick to make an opening, a sliver of hope. Then it rips through the air, a piercing, metallic shriek, the distant sound of the alarm bell. It's not a melodic chime, but a harsh, frantic, insistent clangor that echoes brutally through the stone corridors, shattering the fragile peace of the night. It's a sound that instantly drains the blood from your face, freezing every muscle in your body. Your hand drops the stone, the soft clink on the floor lost beneath the relentless peal of the bell. The ward erupts. Suddenly, gas lamps flare to full brightness, revealing rows of startled, agitated faces. Shouts ring out, nurses' voices harsh and urgent. The heavy thud of running footsteps quickly approaches, growing louder, closer. You are exposed, utterly, irrevocably discovered. Your heart hammers, a frantic, trapped bird, as the cold reality of your futile attempt crashes over you. You stand there, rigid, caught in the stark light, the raw brickwork behind you a testament to your desperate rebellion. The game is over. In that single piercing peal of the alarm bell, you realize the crushing weight of the system's omnipresent power. How quickly a moment of desperate defiance can be snuffed out. How easily the fragile whisper of hope can be drowned by the brutal, undeniable roar of discovery. You are a prisoner still, and the price of daring to dream of freedom, you now understand with a chilling certainty, is about to be paid. That alarm bell ringing relentlessly still echoes in your ears, doesn't it? A frantic metallic shriek that pierced the fragile night, but for a fleeting, desperate moment you made it. You push through the newly created gap in the wall, the rough brick tearing at your thin uniform, scraping against your skin, a sharp, exhilarating pain. You squeeze through, heart pounding, lungs burning, tumbling onto something soft, something yielding cold, damp earth. The smell hits you first, intoxicating, overwhelming, not the subtle earthiness of the garden but the raw, unadulterated scent of the outside world. Fresh night air, sharp and clean, carrying the faint, distant tang of city smoke, the dampness of moss, the promise of unbound spaces. You taste it on your tongue, a wild, untamed flavor that speaks of freedom, of possibility, of a life beyond the walls. You gulp it down, a desperate, greedy intake of air that feels like pure, intoxicating liberty. You scramble to your feet, your rough institutional shoes sinking slightly into the soft ground. Above you the night sky, not the sliver seen through a barred window, but a vast, inky expanse studded with a million indifferent stars. You feel the cold kiss of the breeze on your face, the raw, exhilarating chill that sets your blood singing. Your limbs, usually sluggish from laudanum and confinement, feel infused with a sudden, desperate energy, a primal urge to run, to flee, to reclaim what was stolen. The heavy, suffocating walls of the asylum loom behind you, a monstrous silhouette against the pale gleam of the distant city lights. You can hear the frantic shouts, the pounding footsteps, the relentless clang of the alarm bell, all muted by the thick stone, but still a terrifying promise of pursuit. You don't look back, you run. Your bare legs ache, your breath comes in ragged gasps, but you push through the pain, through the cold, driven by the sheer, desperate taste of freedom. Every step on the uneven ground is a victory, every lungful of fresh air a defiant roar. You run, blindly, desperately, across patches of rough grass, over hidden roots, your heart soaring with a fragile, almost unbearable hope. This is it, you think, a fleeting, exhilarating thought. You are free. Then a sudden, blinding flash of light. A harsh, yellow beam cuts through the darkness, impaling you, freezing you in your tracks. From the corner of your eye, you glimpse them. Dark, imposing figures moving with chilling speed, their heavy boots thudding against the earth. Orderlies, 2 of them then 3, their faces grim, determined, their arms outstretched. They surround you, their shadows eclipsing the stars. You try to twist, to dodge, to fight, but your body, weakened by weeks of confinement, is no match for their brute force. Strong hands grab you, pinning your arms, seizing your legs. The rough fabric of your uniform is pulled taut, constricting, trapping. You gasp, a raw, strangled cry of protest torn from your throat, but it's swiftly muffled. The intoxicating taste of freedom, so recently sampled, turns bitter, acrid in your mouth. You're lifted roughly, unceremoniously, your feet dangling, scraping against the cold earth. You thrash, you kick, a desperate, animalistic struggle, but it's utterly futile. Their grip is unyielding, their purpose absolute. You're carried back towards the gaping hole in the wall, back towards the suffocating embrace of the asylum. The stars above begin to blur through a haze of tears, or perhaps a rising tide of despair. The fresh night air is snatched from your lungs, replaced by the familiar, heavy stench of carbolic acid and human despair. The return to the ward after that desperate, fleeting taste of freedom was brutal, wasn't it? But now something else has descended, a quiet, not the heavy, sedated silence of laudanum, nor the muffled hush of a performance for inspectors. This is an eerie, unsettling stillness, a profound absence of sound that makes the hairs prickle on the back of your neck. The constant undercurrent of moans, the random shouts, the restless shuffles, they are gone. Replaced by a vacuum, a hollow space where sound used to be, a silence that screams of loss. You instinctively hold your breath, straining to hear, but there's nothing but the frantic beat of your own heart. The air, too, feels different. Cleaner somehow, the pervasive carbolic acid still lingers, but it seems thinner, less oppressive, as if it's been allowed to dissipate in the unmoving air. Yet this cleanliness, this quietude, feels more ominous than any stench or clamour. It's an unnatural calm, a forced order that speaks not of healing, but of something far more final. You're back in your bed, the lumpy straw mattress a familiar discomfort, the rough uniform scratching your skin. Your eyes, now accustomed to the perpetual dimness, scan the rows of beds, searching for the familiar, and then you see it, the bed across from yours, the one occupied by the woman with the pale skin and the large, knowing eyes. The woman who shared a glance over a crust of bread, the woman who risked everything to leave you that secret button. Her bed, it's empty, not just unoccupied but starkly, chillingly empty. The straw mattress is bare, stripped of its thin blanket, its rough pillow. The space where she lay, where she breathed, where she suffered is now a void. It's been cleaned, you realize with a sickening lurch in your stomach. Meticulously stripped bare, as if to erase any trace of her ever having been there. The polished gleam of the bed frame, visible now in the subdued light, seems to mock her absence, her disappearance. Your heart gives a frantic, disbelieving lurch. You sit bolt upright, the sudden movement causing a ripple of pain through your aching muscles, but you barely notice. You search the faces of the other patients, those who remain, for a flicker of recognition, a shared understanding of this profound emptiness. Their eyes, dull and vacant, stare ahead as if seeing nothing, knowing nothing, or perhaps they know everything and have simply learned the cruel lesson of silence. The eerie quiet of the ward presses in, amplifying the absence, making the empty bed a monumental testament to what happens when you dare to connect, when you dare to show compassion. You reach instinctively for the lumpy straw beneath your mattress, your fingers brushing against the rough stalks, seeking the small, hard object you hid there. The button, it's still there, a tangible connection to a lost soul, a small, cold comfort in the sudden, profound loneliness that washes over you. And in that vast, unsettling silence, staring at that single, empty bed, you grasp a terrifying, heartbreaking truth, that the system in its brutal efficiency will always eradicate any threat to its order, any flicker of defiance, any act of shared humanity. And the price of compassion, you realize, can be an utter, terrifying erasure, leaving behind only an echoing void and a memory that now, more than ever, you must fight to preserve. That empty bed stripped bare, its absence a gaping wound in the familiar landscape of the ward, it still chills you to your core, doesn't it? The silence it left behind, that profound, terrifying quietude, resonates deep within you. You grip the small, hidden button beneath your mattress, its cold smoothness a fragile anchor in a world that feels increasingly transient, unstable. The familiar stench of carbolic acid seems to blur to thin, as if the very air itself is shifting, altering around you. You close your eyes and for a moment the asylum is all you know, the rough wool of your uniform, the lumpy straw, the distant moans, but then a subtle change begins. The cold in your bones deepens, but it's no longer the chill of damp stone. It's a vast, impersonal cold like stale air conditioning, a mechanical breath on your skin. The pervasive chemical tang of disinfectant persists, but it morphs subtly into a more clinical, almost metallic sharpness, mixed with the faint, unsettling odor of stale coffee and plastic. You open your eyes. The walls around you, once solid brick, shimmer, then solidify into something new, not ornate, not forbidding, but starkly functional, pale, bland walls devoid of character. The low, flickering gaslight is gone, replaced by a harsh, unwavering fluorescent glow that hums, a low, irritating buzz just above your head. The rows of beds are still there, yes, but they're now narrower, more uniform, made of cold metal and thin, sanitized sheets. No straw, just a flat, unyielding surface. The familiar clamor of the ward has transformed too, no desperate shrieks, no guttural moans. Instead, a constant, low murmur of hushed conversations, the distant click of keyboards, the soft, rhythmic beep of unseen machinery. You hear the occasional, almost imperceptible asterisk swish of automated doors, the muffled footsteps of soft-soled shoes. There's a pervasive, engineered quietude, a carefully controlled environment where every sound feels deliberately subdued. You're still in a uniform, a more modern one now, soft but equally anonymous, a faint number stitched onto the breast pocket. No rough wool, but the feeling of being utterly contained, utterly categorized, remains the same. You feel the weight of unseen eyes, not the collective, frantic gazes of the mad, but the detached, professional observation of cameras, of screens, of an omnipresent system that monitors every breath, every movement. The longing for the outside world, for the scent of autumn leaves, the feel of damp earth still aches in your chest, a phantom pain that transcends time. The faces of those around you, though dressed in modern clothes, still hold that veiled sadness, that quiet resignation, that distant look in their eyes. The memory of the physician's cold gaze, his scratch of the pen, lingers, now echoed in the cool, detached efficiency of computer screens, of diagnostic algorithms, of impersonal reports that reduce a life to data points. And as you sit here in this modern echo of the asylum, you realize a chilling, profound truth. The iron gates may be gone, the trepanation saws put away, the raw brutality perhaps less overt. But the spirit of confinement, the insidious need to control, to categorize, to erase individuality in the name of order or treatment, still whispers through these newer walls. The veiled madness, you understand, never truly left. It merely learned to adapt, to disguise itself, to build quieter, cleaner cages, where the echoes of the past still resonate, a haunting reminder that the human spirit's vulnerability to judgment and confinement remains a constant, unchanging truth across the ages.